Chapter 1816. Hearing Ji Tianxing's words, Granny Long fell silent. She frowned and pondered for a long time before making up her mind. Tianxing, what you say makes sense. I'll agree to it then. I hope that after you go to the Sunset Divine Mine, you can resolve the Heaven and Divine Nations scheme and recover the lost land. But you must remember, no matter what, you must prioritize your own safety and never take risks alone. Ji Tianxing nodded and said, I understand. Granny Long then took out a token and a jade slip from her spatial ring and handed them to him. This token is my keepsake. Use it to find Divine Emperor Long Yun, he will know what to do. As for this jade slip, it contains a detailed map of the Sunset Divine Mine, as well as the personnel deployment and arrangements, so that you can grasp the situation of the Divine Mine as soon as possible. Ji Tianxing accepted the token and the jade slip, then cupped his hands and said, This matter should not be delayed, then I will take my leave. I will go back and prepare, then I will set off for the Sunset Divine Mine. Be careful, I will wait for your triumphant return. Granny Long stood up and sent him off. Ji Tianxing did not say anything else and turned to leave the study. After returning to the Cloud Water Palace, he left a letter for Yun Yao and handed it to Black Eagle for safekeeping. After making his preparations, he quickly left the Luotian mountain. Even though he was flying alone in the sky, he was rushing towards the western border. But in reality, Yi Bai, Shouhei, Qian Yu, and Black Dragon were all following him. They were just staying in the sword world to cultivate. Ji Tianxing flew with the wind and did not ride Black Dragon. Black Dragon had been cultivating in seclusion recently and would undergo tribulation in about a month. Luotian Mountain was at the center of the Luotian Divine Nation, far from the western border. For ordinary people, even if they flew day and night, it would still take 3 to 5 months. After Ji Tianxing broke through to the tribulation-passing realm, his cultivation had increased by leaps and bounds, even his flying speed had increased by several times. He estimated that he would arrive in about 20 days. Along the way, he had to pass through the territories of 2 empires, but they were all Luotian Divine Nations territories, so he was safe. He flew continuously for 22 days and was about to reach the western border. During this time, he did not encounter any trouble. There was only one more day before they arrived at the Sunset Divine Mine. At this moment, Ji Tianxing was flying above a vast primitive forest. Under the dark green sea of trees was an ancient mountain range that stretched on endlessly. The mountains were majestic and imposing. This place was close to the border and was a remote and desolate place. There were no major cities within 1,000,000 miles of this place, so there were very few martial artists here. Therefore, this place had become a paradise for many ferocious demonic beasts. Ji Tianxing flew over the mountain range and heard the cries of apes and the roars of beasts. He even saw many rare giant beasts. When the sun was setting, he suddenly sensed a violent hurricane blowing around him. In the sky above his head, boundless gray clouds gathered from all directions, covering the afterglow of the setting sun. As he flew forward, the gray clouds and hurricanes that filled the sky also moved quickly. Such a phenomenon caused Ji Tianxing to reveal a puzzled expression, and he stopped in his tracks. That's strange. Judging from this biting cold hurricane and the gray clouds, it seems like the heavenly tribulation is about to arrive. But my second heavenly tribulation hasn't arrived yet. Who's about to undergo it? Just as he was feeling puzzled, Qian Yu's voice suddenly rang out in his mind. Old Ji, come and take a look. The little black dragon is about to undergo its tribulation. Ji Tianxing was startled and frowned. As expected, the little black dragon is about to undergo its tribulation. But it's in the sword world. How can the heavenly tribulation form outside? Puzzled, he hurriedly entered the sword world and landed in peaceful Earth City. In the spacious plaza of the city, the 3,000-foot-long black dragon was coiled up. Its body flickered with black light as it did its best to resist an invisible suppressive energy. Qian Yu, Yi Bai, Shouhei, the Golden Mountain King, and several hundred Earth spirit experts were gathered around the plaza, discussing spiritedly. What was surprising was that the little black dragon was about to undergo its tribulation, but the sky above peaceful Earth City was still bright and sunny. Seeing Ji Tianxing arrive, everyone bowed and greeted him. Qianyu hurriedly came over and anxiously said, "Old Ji, the little black dragon situation is very strange. Quickly come and take a look." Ji Tianxing hurriedly landed in the plaza and came to the little black dragon's side. He asked, "Little black dragon, what's going on? Are you sure the heavenly tribulation is coming?" The little black dragon was enduring an enormous suppressive energy and found it difficult to move. Even raising its head was extremely difficult. It said in a low voice, "Old Ji, I also don't know what's going on. I have a feeling that the heavenly tribulation will descend today. Now that the heavenly tribulation has arrived, I am being suppressed by the vast heavenly might, but there are no tribulation clouds in the sky. How strange." Ji Tianxing frowned and said in a serious tone, "Your calamity cloud is in the outside world. You can't undergo your tribulation here, or else something big will happen. I'll take you outside." As he spoke, he hurriedly opened the sword world and used the power of the sacred sword to move the little black dragon to the outside world. Whoosh! With a flash of black light, the little black dragon appeared above the vast forest. But before it could stand firm, an invisible heavenly might descended from the sky and immediately suppressed it. Thump! It fell from the sky and smashed into the summit of a 10,000-foot tall mountain with a dull thud. A deep pit was smashed into the summit and thousands of towering trees were smashed to pieces, sending mud and wood splinters into the air. At the same time, the fierce winds in the world became even more violent. The boundless gray clouds in the sky began to rapidly converge, transforming into pitch-black tribulation clouds. The little black dragon crawled out of the pit with great difficulty. It had just assumed a defensive posture when a vortex of tribulation clouds formed in the sky, millions of arcs of lightning flashing within. In just a few seconds, the vortex of tribulation clouds in a radius of 100 li condensed a terrifying bolt of heavenly lightning that came crashing down. Kaboom! With a crack of thunder, a 1,000-foot-long bolt of heavenly lightning viciously slammed down at the little black dragon. The first bolt of heavenly lightning descended just like that. To Ji Tianxing's shock, this bolt of heavenly lightning was not only 1,000 foot long, it was also formed from gold and red lightning. Its power was extremely terrifying. Ji Tianxing immediately frowned, and a trace of worry flashed through his eyes. Why is the little black dragon's heavenly tribulation so strange? Not only does it form tribulation clouds quickly, it also condenses heavenly lightning quickly. Its first bolt of heavenly lightning was 1,000 foot long, and it was formed from two types of lightning. It was several times stronger than Qianyue's tribulation. As this thought flashed through his mind, the two-colored bolt of heavenly lightning struck the little black dragon. Golden and red light blossomed, illuminating the gloomy sky for several hundred li in a dazzling light. The 10,000-foot-tall mountain beneath the little black dragon was instantly pulverized by the bolt of heavenly lightning, transforming it into scorched ruins. Dust rose into the air as the surrounding forest was set ablaze. Chapter 1817. Fortunately, the little black dragon had made ample preparations and had a robust foundation. It had not been injured by the heavenly lightning, but its aura had been thrown into disarray and its magic energy was fiercely fluctuating. Ji Tianxing stood in the air above the forest 100 li away. He stared at the little black dragon in the ruins and hurriedly sent a message to it. "Little black dragon, you can't relax. Focus and welcome the second bolt of heavenly lightning." The little black dragon heard his warning and hurriedly crawled out of the ruins. It forcefully circulated its energy and stabilized its magic energy. Its aura had just stabilized when the second bolt of heavenly lightning arrived. Kaboom! A heaven-shaking explosion resounded through the air, reverberating through the horizon for several thousand li. Two bolts of heavenly lightning, each 1,000 feet long, came down from the pitch-black vortex of tribulation clouds at the same time, hurtling toward the little black dragon. The two bolts of heavenly lightning were both gold and red. They contained a special lightning attribute and were incomparably violent. The little black dragon was deeply shocked by this sight and fell into a daze for a moment. It had clearly not expected that there would be two bolts of heavenly lightning. Such a bizarre occurrence had never occurred before. It was completely defenseless. Ji Tianxing was also stunned. His pupils constricted as a thought flashed through his mind. 2 bolts of heavenly lightning? Could the little black dragon's heavenly tribulation be the legendary? The next moment, the 2 bolts of heavenly lightning struck the little black dragon. Boom! With a deafening boom, endless scorched earth flew into the sky, blotting out the sun. The scorched earth for 100 li was instantly transformed into a pitch-black abyss, black smoke rising from it. The earth within 1,000 miles was trembling, and the dozens of mountain peaks in the surroundings were also trembling. Many of the tall mountains cracked and collapsed. After the dust settled, Ji Tianxing could clearly see that the little black dragon was lying in the pitch-black abyss, black smoke rising from its body. Its back was a mess of flesh and blood. Some cracks and holes had been charred black. It was clear that the little black dragon had been distracted during the tribulation and had not been able to block it in time, resulting in it being heavily injured. Ji Tianxing was filled with worry as he hurriedly sent a message of warning. Little black dragon, no one can help you with the tribulation. You can only rely on yourself. Your heavenly tribulation is extraordinary. It is very likely to be the legendary ancient god's tribulation. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8. This is the most dangerous heavenly tribulation. You must give it your all. The little black dragon was currently struggling in the abyss, its heart filled with confusion and fear. After hearing Ji Tianxing's reminder, it finally understood the reason. It hurriedly pulled itself together and quickly healed its injuries, adjusting its magical power and aura. Old Ji, why is my heavenly tribulation different from Qian Yu's? Why would I attract the ancient divine tribulation? Ji Tianxing looked up at the sky and saw that the 3rd heavenly thunder was about to condense in the tribulation cloud vortex. He quickly explained, I don't know the specific reason now. However, I am certain that it has something to do with your divine dragon bloodline or the divine dragon crystal that you refined. The little black dragon immediately understood what he meant. If it wasn't for the fact that its divine dragon bloodline was special and had attracted the ancient divine tribulation, then it was definitely because of the divine dragon crystal. That mystical dragon crystal was the legacy crystal of an ancient mystical dragon. That mystical dragon had already reached the deity realm when it was alive. Very quickly, the 3rd heavenly thunder descended. The situation was just as Ji Tianxing had predicted. 4 pillars of lightning descended from the tribulation cloud vortex at the same time. Each pillar of lightning was gold and red, and they were twice as powerful as before. The little black dragon's eyes were extremely grave. Without hesitation, it roared and transformed into its 10-kilometer-long divine dragon body. Rhea. As it roared, its body erupted with black light that condensed into a 10-kilometer-wide barrier that protected its body. Reverse dragon veils the heavens. The pitch-black barrier seemed almost tangible, exuding a mysterious and powerful aura. However, even the barrier seemed rather fragile in the face of these 4 terrifying heavenly thunders, unable to withstand a single blow. Boom! Crack! With a crisp explosion, the pitch-black barrier collapsed, transforming into millions of shards of black light that scattered in all directions. 4 dazzling heavenly thunders pierced through the shards and simultaneously struck the little black dragon. The pitiful little black dragon was once again blasted into the pitch-black abyss. The abyss expanded to a radius of 200 kilometers, unleashing shockwaves of lightning and fire that burned the surrounding forest to ash. The earth for 1,000 kilometers fiercely swayed, and massive gullies appeared in the ground. Some mountains collapsed, and large swathes of forest were destroyed. The little black dragon was struck by the 4 heavenly thunders, and wounds appeared on its massive body and 5 dragon claws. Several hundred dragon scales fell from its body, and large droplets of dragon blood sprayed out. Its injuries were even more severe, and it appeared to be in a rather sorry state. Fortunately, the pitch-black barrier had neutralized 40% of the heavenly thunder's power. Although its injuries had worsened, it had not lost its ability to resist. It quickly gathered its energy and flew out of the abyss. After the first 3 heavenly thunders, the tribulation cloud vortex began to change. Using this chance, the little black dragon left the abyss and flew 100 kilometers away. 30 seconds later, The massive tribulation cloud vortex was covered in a layer of dark purple. The fourth heavenly thunder finally descended. Boom! Crack! 2,000-foot-long heavenly thunders exploded from the tribulation cloud vortex. Each heavenly thunder had 3 colors, consisting of purple, gold, and red lightning. Its power was 3 times greater than before. Upon seeing this, Ji Tianxing's pupils constricted as he muttered to himself, "As expected, it's the ancient divine tribulation. There's no mistaking it." The first 3 heavenly thunders were 1, 2, and 4 heavenly thunders. The middle 3 heavenly thunders were 2, 4, and 8 heavenly thunders. The final 3 heavenly thunders were said to be 4, 8, and 16 heavenly thunders. It was the number 1 forbidden tribulation of the ancient era. At the same time, the little black dragon used a secret art. Its massive body curled up into a ball. 5 colored lights surged out of its body, forming a shield around its body to protect it. Boom! With a massive boom, the 5-colored shield was shattered by the 2 heavenly thunders. The little black dragon was also smashed into the ground, its injuries even more severe. Dragon blood gushed out of its body, and many of its dragon scales fell off. The 100-kilometer stretch of forest beneath it was also reduced to scorched earth and ruins. But the little black dragon was extremely tenacious. Enduring its pain, it quickly regrouped. Before long, the 5th heavenly thunder descended. 4 heavenly thunders shot out of the tribulation cloud vortex and blasted at the little black dragon. The little black dragon calmly took out an ancient bronze compass and poured all its dermic energy into it. Buzz! The ancient bronze compass immediately expanded to 5 kilometers in size, blotting out the sun as it floated above the little black dragon's head. This was a tribulation-grade defensive treasure that Ji Tianxing had given it. It was an antique from 1,000 years ago and was specially made to help it transcend the tribulation. Boom! Crack! With an earth-shaking boom, the 4 heavenly thunders blasted the ancient bronze compass out of the sky, smashing it into the scorched earth and ruins. Although this treasure had helped the little black dragon block the heavenly thunders, it was still not enough. Chapter 18:18. The sun was about to set, and the world gradually became dark. At this moment, 2 dazzling streams of light flew over the forest from west to east. There were 2 middle-aged men in the streams of light. They looked to be in their 40s and had an extraordinary aura. The man on the left wore a green robe. He was thin and had an elegant temperament. He was dressed like a scholar. The man on the right had a strong build. He wore a black robe and a large black cloak. His whole body was filled with a murderous aura. Both of them were powerhouses in the crossing calamity realm. They flew as fast as lightning without making a sound. Suddenly, both of them saw a huge black cloud vortex in the sky in front of them. The vortex was surrounded by gray clouds. There were strong gales and flashes of lightning. Every now and then, a few bolts of lightning would strike down from the black cloud vortex. Seeing this scene, the 2 of them revealed shocked expressions. They were quite surprised. "It's really strange. This place is near the border of the Luoshui kingdom. It has always been deserted. Why is there someone undergoing tribulation here?" "Master Lu, look at the scale of the tribulation cloud vortex. It has a radius of 100 miles. Several bolts of lightning struck down from the tribulation cloud vortex at the same time. The 2 of them discussed with each other through telepathy. The middle-aged scholar called Master Lu frowned and said in disbelief, "How is this possible? We've both gone through 5 tribulations. We're quite knowledgeable. But we've never heard of anyone's tribulation that would strike down several bolts of lightning at the same time. Song Feng, are our eyes playing tricks on us?" The black-robed man called Song Feng waved his large cloak and accelerated forward. "I've never seen such a strange thing in my life. It'll be a pity if I don't go and see what's going on." Master Lu quickly followed and reminded him through telepathy, "Song Feng, the tribulation is so strange. The person undergoing the tribulation is definitely not an ordinary person. If we go and see someone undergoing the tribulation and get into trouble, won't it delay our mission? You should know that if something goes wrong with the mission and Marshal Saint Yi blames us, we'll be in big trouble." Song Feng only hesitated for a moment and said stubbornly, "I won't forget Marshal Xianxia's mission, let alone delay it. But I'll regret it for the rest of my life if I don't see it with my own eyes. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. I won't show up rashly." Seeing that he had already made up his mind, Lu Shi didn't try to persuade him any further. After all, he was also very curious and wanted to see what was going on. In just a short 100 breaths, the two of them had flown over 2,000 miles and arrived near the tribulation cloud vortex. When they were still 100 kilometers away, they saw that the person transcending the tribulation beneath the enormous and shocking vortex of tribulation clouds wasn't a human, but an enormous dragon that was 5 kilometers long. Such an outcome caused Song Feng and Lu Shi to be pleasantly surprised, and their eyes widened in surprise. "Oh my God! I thought it was a martial monarch undergoing a tribulation. I didn't expect it to be a black dragon. That's not a flood dragon, but a legendary divine dragon. No wonder it's undergoing its tribulation in such a desolate place. It's a divine beast, the black dragon." This was a huge surprise. Everyone knew that dragons were hard to find and only the 3 martial gods could capture and tame them. Who would have thought that we would actually encounter a divine dragon undergoing tribulation here? Song Feng and Lu Shi looked at each other and saw the ecstasy and astonishment in each other's eyes. Even though they were experts who had cultivated for thousands of years, their state of mind had long been calm and indifferent. However, the appearance of the divine dragon was too surprising and shocking. It caused their blood to boil and their bodies to tremble with excitement. At this moment, the two of them had forgotten their mission and threw everything to the back of their minds. The same thought appeared in their minds at the same time. "Song Feng, that divine dragon is hiding in this primitive mountain range and cultivating. It hasn't been discovered by the Luoshui divine nation until now. It's a gift from the heavens for us to encounter it today. We can't miss it no matter what. Lu Shi, even if there's a danger of eternal damnation, I'll do my best to subdue that black dragon. If we can successfully tame a divine dragon, why would we need to rely on the background of the Broken Heaven Alliance? Why would we need to work for Marshal Saint-Yi? From today onwards, we'll definitely be able to break through to the Martial Saint realm and even have a chance to reach the Martial God realm." Lu Shi, who had always been calm and collected, was also overwhelmed by the huge surprise. Song Feng's words had aroused his passion and imagination. He nodded continuously and shouted with a flushed face, "With the divine dragon in our hands, we can travel the world and go to a place outside the sea. We can become gods and ancestors and live a carefree life." Song Feng clenched his fists and shouted, "A lifetime of glory, splendor, wealth, and a future of martial arts all depend on this." Obviously, the two of them were sure that the divine dragon was an ownerless divine beast that lived in seclusion and cultivated in this mountain range. Otherwise, when the experts of the Luoshui divine nation discovered the divine dragon, they would have captured it and offered it to the Luoshui martial god. It was a gift from the heavens for them to encounter the divine dragon. It was a blessing that they had cultivated for 3 lifetimes. It was the greatest opportunity of their lives. At this moment, the divine dragon was undergoing its 6th tribulation. There were a total of 8 tricolored lightning bolts that descended from the sky toward the divine dragon. The divine dragon took out the ancient bronze compass again and injected a vast amount of magic power into it. It lay across the sky above its head. Kaboom! There was a loud explosion and the ancient bronze compass exploded on the spot. It shattered into countless pieces and scattered among the charred ruins. The divine dragon was also engulfed by the 8 bolts of lightning and blasted into the charred ruins. 200 miles of land had turned into a deep abyss. Endless dust and smoke covered a radius of a few hundred miles. When the dust and smoke dissipated, the divine dragon was lying in the abyss covered in blood. Its body was constantly twitching. Its injuries were extremely miserable. There was not a single place on its body that was unharmed. It was covered in wounds and bloody holes. Boiling dragon blood poured out of the black charred wounds and spilled onto the ground. Thousands of dragon scale fragments were scattered around its body. His appearance was simply too miserable. Its injuries were extremely severe. Its life force and magic power were in chaos. It only had about 40% of its strength left. However, the tribulation cloud vortex high in the sky had not dissipated. It was undergoing a strange transformation. Not long after, when the divine dragon was coiled up in the abyss and barely managed to recover its magic power, the tribulation cloud vortex had also completed its transformation. The black tribulation cloud vortex was covered in a layer of blood red. Kaboom! 4 blood-red pillars of lightning descended from the sky, aiming straight for the little black dragon. Seeing this, Ji Tianxing's expression was very complicated. He muttered to himself, "Mental demon tribulation." The reason why he felt so complicated was because the divine dragon's injuries were too severe. If it was struck by the lightning bolts that were even more powerful, its body might be destroyed or even killed. At least the mental demon tribulation would not harm its body. It would only test its temperament and soul. However, Ji Tianxing could not help but worry. The mental demon tribulation was more terrifying than ordinary lightning. It was strange and unpredictable. If the divine dragon could not resolve it, its soul would be destroyed and it would die completely. Chapter 18-19. The blood-red pillar of lightning struck the black dragon. However, there was no apocalyptic scene. The lightning turned into a layer of blood-red light that enveloped the black dragon, sealing it firmly. It fell into silence as if it was in a deep sleep. No one knew what kind of test and calamity it was going through, and whether it could survive it successfully. On a mountain peak 200 miles away, Master Lu and Song Feng stood on the mountain peak, staring at the black dragon with anticipation. As expected of a divine dragon, the heavenly tribulation it triggered is different from ours. It's so special. Master Lu, when the black dragon finishes its tribulation, let's make a move immediately. We can't let it escape. The two of them were secretly accumulating their dermic powers, ready to launch a thunderous attack at any time to snatch the black dragon. Lu Shi was a more composed person. He released his spiritual perception and scanned the surroundings to check on the situation. His divine sense covered a radius of more than 100 miles. After checking carefully, he was completely at ease. Other than the two of us and the black dragon, there are no other powerhouses or demon beasts within a radius of 150 miles. There are also no formations or traps. We can rest assured. Song Feng glanced at him and chuckled. Master Lu, aren't you being too cautious? This place is deserted. There's not even a shadow. How could anyone come here? Master Lu said indifferently, "It's better to be safe than sorry. It's never wrong to be cautious." After saying that, the two of them stopped talking and waited patiently for the black dragon to finish its tribulation. However, they did not know that on a mountain peak 200 miles away to their east, a white-robed youth was also waiting for the black dragon to finish its tribulation. Unknowingly, an hour had passed. The setting sun had completely disappeared, and the world became dark. Night was about to arrive. At this moment, the tribulation cloud vortex in the sky finally dissipated. The blood-red light shield that enveloped the black dragon also collapsed with a series of cracking sounds. After the blood-red light dissipated, the black dragon opened its eyes and regained its freedom of movement. It seemed to have experienced great fear. Its body was still trembling as it panted heavily. A complicated look flickered in his large dragon eyes, constantly changing. How could this be? This is impossible. The dragon clan is noble. It's definitely not a criminal. It muttered hoarsely, its tone filled with grief, indignation, and unwillingness. However, the tribulation cloud vortex high up in the sky turned into a ball of sacred golden light that descended from the sky and enveloped it. Boundless divine power poured into its body, calming it down immediately. This divine golden light was a reward given by the heavens to those who had survived the heavenly tribulation. It had a miraculous effect that could quickly heal injuries and increase one's strength. The black dragon had undergone the primordial divinity tribulation, so the divine light reward he received was even more extraordinary. The surging divine power entered its body and healed all of its injuries at an incredible speed, replenishing the magic power it had consumed. Its strength and aura were also skyrocketing. 100 breaths of time passed, and the divine golden light was completely absorbed. The black dragon's injuries were all healed, and its body was in perfect condition. Its strength had also increased by about 6 times. Presently, it had finally broken through to the first level of the tribulation stage. It opened its deep eyes, and there was no longer anger and panic in its eyes. Instead, it became very calm and composed. Just as it turned its head to look to the east and was about to report the good news to Ji Tianxing, Shua. 2 streaks of light flew over from the west and landed beside it, one on its left and one on its right. The black dragon took a closer look and saw 2 tribulation stage powerhouses among the 2 streaks of light. It frowned, and its eyes were filled with vigilance. At this moment, Master Lu, who was dressed in a green robe, said with a pleasant expression, "Brother Black Dragon, congratulations on successfully passing the tribulation. The 2 of us admire and yearn for the dragon god very much, so we suddenly showed up to discuss something with you." Master Lu's eyes and tone were very sincere. Song Feng was secretly amused and muttered, "Master Lu, you're too polite to this black dragon, aren't you? It has just entered the tribulation stage. Why do we have to talk nonsense with it? We can just kidnap it." Master Lu's expression did not change, but he secretly explained, "Song Feng, don't be reckless. Legend has it that the dragon god is extremely arrogant and will not easily submit to others. If we forcibly kidnap it, it will be counterproductive." Song Feng raised his eyebrows and said with an indifferent attitude, "All right, you can be the one to persuade it. If it really doesn't work, we'll take action." Master Lu cupped his hands at the black dragon and said sincerely, "Brother Black Dragon, although you're hiding here to cultivate, it's not a long-term solution. You'll be discovered sooner or later. Why don't we bring you to an otherworldly paradise where you can cultivate without being disturbed and have endless resources and treasures?" However, before Lu Shi could finish speaking, the black dragon interrupted him. "You want me to follow you?" Master Lu smiled and nodded expectantly. "That's right. We'll bring you to the safest and most suitable place for cultivation. We'll even do our best to help you." "There's no need," the black dragon said indifferently. "The 2 of you are not worthy of me following you." The black dragon was a taciturn person and was not good with words. It could see Master Lu and Song Feng's intentions and did not have a good impression of them. Therefore, it was even more direct with its words. Lu Shi was stunned, and an awkward expression appeared on his face. Song Feng could not suppress the anger in his heart. He sneered and said, "Ha! No wonder Master Lu said that divine dragons are extremely arrogant. It seems that it's true. However, this little black dragon really doesn't know what's good for you. Now, it's not up to you whether you want to follow us or not. If you know what's good for you, you'd better submit to us obediently so that you won't have to suffer more physical pain. Don't try to resist. With your strength in the first stage of the tribulation stage, you're definitely no match for us." As he said that, Song Feng swung his large black cloak and revealed the treasured saber at his waist. His whole body emitted a strong and domineering aura. The black dragon was obviously stunned. Then, it showed a sympathetic look and said in a strange tone, "The 2 of you. Are you sure you want to fight?" Master Lu frowned and a strange look flashed in his eyes. He thought to himself, "This black dragon is so calm. Could it be that it has helpers or backers?" Song Feng misunderstood and thought that the black dragon was afraid. He laughed confidently and said, "Huh, now you're afraid? Then what are you waiting for? Why don't you submit to us?" When he heard that, the black dragon stared straight at him. His eyes were filled with pity, as if he was looking at an idiot. At the same time, a handsome figure came to the scene silently and appeared behind Song Feng and Master Lu. "How dare you poach me in front of me? You don't take me seriously at all." A cold and indifferent voice suddenly sounded in the night sky. Master Lu and Song Feng were shocked. They quickly turned around and saw a young man in a white robe standing in the night sky thousands of feet away. Chapter 1820. Song Feng and Master Lu's expressions turned gloomy. Both of them held their sword hilts and looked at the white-robed young man warily. "Who are you?" Master Lu frowned and asked. Song Feng licked the corner of his mouth and said in a sinister tone, "Kid, everything has to be first come, first served. We were the first to discover this black dragon. If you want to interfere, you have to consider whether you are powerful enough." Ji Tianxing's sneer deepened as he said in a playful tone, "First come, first served? The black dragon is my war pet." Hearing those words, Lu Shi's face immediately darkened and a deep frown appeared on his forehead. Although he was eager to get the black dragon, it was a divine beast with a master. His instincts made him want to give up and back down. But before he could say anything, Song Feng sneered, Do you think it is just because you say so? Who can prove it for you? Besides, even if the black dragon is really your war pet, so what? A good bird chooses a good tree to nest in. Only the two of us are worthy to be its master. Boy, we must get the black dragon. If you know what's good for you, you'd better leave and we can pretend nothing happened. Apparently, the temptation of the black dragon had blinded Song Feng's conscience and made him lose his mind. Ji Tianxing sneered and said mockingly, "So, you are going to rob me openly?" As he said that, he accumulated magic power in his body and his aura surged. Master Lu sensed that something was wrong and he quickly said, "Song Feng, don't be rash. The black dragon is already owned. It is unwise to rob it openly. This boy has reached the crossing calamity stage at such a young age and owns a divine dragon. He is not an ordinary person. He must have a powerful background." Before Teacher Lu could finish speaking, Song Feng interrupted him and shouted in a low voice, "Teacher Lu, this is the Luoshui Kingdom, not the Heaven End Kingdom. What are you afraid of? Encountering a black dragon is the biggest opportunity in our lives. If we miss this opportunity, we will regret it for the rest of our lives. Don't hesitate. Let's kill that brat and tame that black dragon together." Then, with a clang, he pulled out his treasured saber and slashed out a 300-meter-long saber light towards Ji Tianxing at lightning speed. Mountain Breaker! The 300-meter-long dark golden saber light slashed toward Ji Tianxing with an unstoppable force. Its power was terrifying. Ji Tianxing's eyes flashed with murderous intent as he sneered, "As expected, you're blinded by greed. Since you're so eager to die, I'll fulfill your wish." As he spoke, he raised his right hand and blasted out a silver fist light that smashed towards Song Feng. Star-shattering fist. Boom. The sword radiance and the fist radiance collided, and a loud, muffled sound erupted, spreading across the sky for hundreds of miles. In that instant, the sword light and fist radiance collapsed at the same time, exploding into billions of fragments. Hundreds of miles of the night sky were illuminated as if it were daytime. The raging shockwave fiercely hit Song Feng and forced him to retreat 3,000 meters. Master Lu hurriedly pulled out his sword and cast a spell to unleash a sky full of sword radiance toward Ji Tianxing. However, the black dragon met the attack head-on, twisting its 10-mile-long body and sweeping away all the sword radiance in the sky. The two of them were entangled, each using their own unique skills to fight in the night sky. Song Feng was only slightly injured. He was shocked and angry as he swung his sword to attack again. "Brat, I underestimated you just now. But now you don't have the chance." Song Feng shouted angrily as his body lit up with flames. He unleashed 100% of his magic power and slashed out a sky full of sword radiance. Swoosh! 36 dazzling giant swords were arranged in the direction of the Big Dipper star. They carried the mysterious power of the array and slashed toward Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing was fearless. His sleeves fluttered as he stood in the night sky, looking down at Song Feng. With his left hand behind his back, he raised his right hand and pointed to the sky. He shouted indifferently, "Sword, come!" Suddenly, a dazzling golden radiance lit up in the dark sky and fell from the sky like a meteor. In just a short moment, the dazzling golden radiance descended on the mountain range. It turned out that the dazzling golden radiance was a giant golden sword that was thousands of feet tall. The giant sword was formed by the astral fire and contained a violent power that could destroy the world. Slash! Ji Tianxing shouted coldly as he waved his right hand and pointed at Song Feng in front of him. Before Tsang Feng could even react, the 3 kilometers-long sword had already struck him in the head. Bam! A deafening explosion erupted and reverberated through the heavens, shaking everything within 800 miles. The giant golden radiance sword instantly shattered Tsang Feng's magic power shield and smashed it into pieces. Even his divine soul was destroyed. Then, the giant sword hit the ruins below. A pitch-black abyss with a radius of dozens of miles and a depth of hundreds of miles was formed on the ground. The dazzling golden radiance flew into the night sky with endless dust and covered the sky. The violent and terrifying movement lasted for a long time before it dissipated. When the dust and golden radiance dissipated, Tsang Feng had disappeared completely. His physical body and divine soul had turned into powder and scattered in the abyss, returning to heaven and earth. Not far away in the sky, the Black Dragon and Master Lu stopped fighting temporarily. Master Lu saw with his own eyes that the golden sword fell from the sky and smashed Tsang Feng into pieces. He was so scared that his face turned pale and his heart skipped a beat. He didn't expect that the seemingly ordinary white-robed young man had such terrifying strength. The white-robed young man was only in the first stage of the crossing tribulation stage. How could he kill Tsang Feng, who was in the 5th stage of the crossing tribulation stage, in one move? This was simply an unheard-of miracle. What kind of monster was that white-robed young man? Just as Master Lu was inexplicably shocked, Ji Tianxing stepped on the night sky and arrived in front of him. The black dragon also shrank its body to thousands of feet long and flew back to Ji Tianxing's side. Ji Tianxing stood on the back of the black dragon and looked at Master Lu coldly. He said indifferently, "The divine dragon is right here. Come and get it." Master Lu saw that he had no intention of making a move and slowly kept his sword. He smiled bitterly and shook his head. "Young master, you must be joking. Although the divine dragon is precious, it already has an owner. Although I desire the divine dragon, I won't lose my conscience and kill to snatch it." Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows and asked in a playful tone, "Your companion was killed by me. As a friend, don't you plan to avenge him?" Master Lu shook his head again and said bitterly, "Tsang Feng and I have worked together for dozens of years. Indeed, we have been through life and death situations together. However, our ideals are different. Today's matter is our fault. We were greedy and tried to snatch your black dragon. Although I am heartbroken and regretful about Tsang Feng's death, I won't avenge him. He asked for it. This lowly one apologizes to young master. Please forgive this lowly one's offense." Master Lu cupped his hands and bowed to Ji Tianxing. "If you don't have anything else, I will take my leave now. I won't disturb you anymore." After saying that, Master Lu turned and was about to leave. Chapter 1821. The scene of Ji Tianxing killing Tsang Feng with a single strike was too shocking for Master Lu. He was fearful of this mysterious white-robed youth from the bottom of his heart. At this moment, he only wanted to escape as soon as possible and get away from this troublesome place. However, just as he turned around, he was stopped by Ji Tianxing. An invisible and powerful force enveloped him, causing his body to stiffen. Should he forcefully break free and escape? That was obviously not realistic. Master Lu did not think he had a chance to escape. Helpless, he could only stop and turn around to look at Ji Tianxing. "Is there anything else, young master?" He pretended to be calm as he looked at Ji Tianxing. As usual, he was neither servile nor overbearing. Ji Tianxing looked at him from head to toe, then said slowly, "Judging by the looks of you and Tsang Feng, you don't look like evil people. Moreover, your attire and facial features do not look like people from the Luoshui divine nation. You came from the west, and now you're going to the west. Hundreds of thousands of miles to the west is the border between the two nations. You must be from the heaven and divine nation." At this point, Ji Tianxing's face turned cold, and his eyes became much sharper. He asked in a deep voice, "Speak, who are you? What are you trying to do by sneaking into the Luoshui divine nation?" Seeing Ji Tianxing speaking so logically, Master Lu was even more shocked and vigilant. His eyes also changed. He lowered his head slightly, not daring to look directly at Ji Tianxing's deep and sharp eyes. Ji Tianxing did not open his mouth to threaten him. He looked straight ahead and walked step by step toward him. Every step was as heavy as a mountain. Stepping on the night sky, he condensed an invisible pressure and pressed down on Master Lu. This was a lost ancient secret technique called the heaven-shaking 9 steps. When Ji Tianxing took 8 steps, the invisible pressure of the divine sense was as heavy as a mountain. Under the suppression, Lu Shi's body was hunched over, and his entire body was drenched in sweat. His soul was trembling, and his eyes were filled with fear and terror. He finally couldn't withstand the enormous pressure and slowly stretched out his trembling hands. He cupped his fists and said, "Young master's eyes are indeed sharp. You can see through our origins from these little clues. You guessed right, Song Feng and I are both from the Heaven Extinction Divine Nation. We just rushed over from the border. To tell you the truth, we're from the Broken Heaven Alliance, and we're here on a mission." Broken Sky Alliance? Ji Tianxing frowned slightly as a few figures appeared in his mind. He recalled the few young experts he had met in the Mountain of Flames. He asked expressionlessly, "You infiltrated the border and infiltrated the Luoshui Divine Nation for what mission?" "This." Teacher Lu was immediately put in a difficult position and said with a bitter expression, "Young master, this is the secret of our Broken Heaven Alliance. Please don't force me to answer. However, I can guarantee that our mission will only involve trade, and we will definitely not harm the Luoshui God Nation." Ji Tianxing stared at him with sharp eyes. After a moment of silence, he said in a deep voice, "You're lying. What mission are you on? Tell me the truth." Teacher Lu's reaction was normal, and his performance was flawless. However, the subtle changes in his eyes and the fluctuations of his divine sense could not be hidden from Ji Tianxing. Teacher Lu was immediately filled with anxiety, and he hurriedly waved his hands and said, "Young master, I'm telling the truth. Our mission is only to deliver a secret letter to the Wind Moon City." Without waiting for him to finish his words, Ji Tianxing waved his hand, and a huge golden palm shot out, grabbing Lu Shi in its palm. Swoosh! The giant golden palm grabbed Teacher Lu and brought him back to Ji Tianxing. Teacher Lu struggled with all his might, but he couldn't break free from the giant palm. His magic power was also sealed by the giant palm, and he couldn't circulate it. Ji Tianxing shouted with a cold expression, "Either you tell the truth, or you'll be buried with Song Feng." As he spoke, he gradually unleashed his power and used the giant golden palm to crush Teacher Lu. Teacher Lu's body was crushed by the giant palm, and his bones began to dislocate and deform. The intense pain caused his body to convulse and break out in cold sweat, and he let out a painful scream. You don't go too far. I'm telling the truth. It's useless even if you kill me." Ji Tianxing was not moved at all, and continued to crush him with the giant palm. He slowly said, "Speaking of the Broken Heaven Alliance, I have some understanding of it. It's said that it's one of the strongest forces in the Heaven End God Nation. A few months ago, I happened to meet 4 young experts in the Flame Mountain, and they were all elites of the Broken Heaven Alliance. They were looking for the Golden Lotus in the Flame Mountain, but they were surrounded by many demon beasts. At the critical moment, I saved them, and after talking with them, I learned of their origins. If I remember correctly, the names of the 4 young elites were Li Gan, Zhao Guangxiong, Qinwan." Teacher Lu was still struggling in pain, but when he heard Ji Tianxing's words, he immediately calmed down. When he heard the names of the young elites, his expression changed drastically, and he revealed a strange look. Ji Tianxing stared at him and asked with a playful tone, "Looking at your reaction, you seem to know them, right?" Teacher Lu was silent for a long time and then said with a complicated tone, "That's right, Qinwan is the daughter of my best friend, and Li Gan is my junior brother. They were looking for the Golden Lotus in the Flame Mountain, and when they were in danger, they were saved by a white-robed young master. I didn't expect that the white-robed young master who saved their lives was you." Ji Tianxing nodded and said with a playful smile, "Maybe this is fate. It was the will of the heavens. Teacher Lu, you're a scholar who has read a lot, and you should understand many things, and have your own principles and integrity. The reason why I didn't kill you is also because of this. Now, I'll give you one last chance to confess." Teacher Lu was different from Cong Feng. His background was very complicated, and he only joined the Broken Heaven Alliance to settle down. For 200 years, he never relied on the power of the Broken Heaven Alliance to commit murder, arson, or robbery. Just as Ji Tianxing said, he was a man of principles, and he believed in the existence of the gods, karma, and so on. After a long silence and hesitation, Teacher Lu clenched his teeth and made a decision. He lowered his head dejectedly and said with an old and powerless voice, "Young master saved Qing Wan and Ligan's lives, and is their savior. Today, Cong Feng and I fell into your hands. Maybe this is the will of the heavens, and it's my punishment. To be honest, Cong Feng and I sneaked into the Luo River God Nation under Marshal Xianxia's orders, and we were going to the Wind Moon City to create chaos and disaster." Hearing Teacher Lu's words, Ji Tianxing frowned, and his eyes became even colder. "Marshal Xianxia? Which Marshal Xianxia?" Teacher Lu revealed an ashamed expression and said in a low voice, "The Divine Guard Governor of the Heaven End God Nation, Sword Xianxia Lu Shui." Chapter 1822. As soon as Teacher Lu mentioned Marshal Xianxia's identity, Ji Tianxing suddenly realized. His face also darkened, and his eyes flashed with a cold light. After a moment of silence, he suddenly sneered. "Ha! This Yi Lu Shui is really sinister and despicable. The two armies are facing each other at the border, and they are in a stalemate for the Sunset Divine Mine, scheming against each other secretly. Yi Lu Shui is guarding the border, and he is indeed scheming, not hesitating to use such a despicable move. He sent you to infiltrate the Luo Shui Divine Nation and create chaos and disaster in the major cities at the border, so that you can draw away a portion of the army and reduce his pressure." Ji Tianxing exposed Marshal Xianxia's despicable plan, and Teacher Lu's face instantly turned ugly. Seeing that Ji Tianxing was really angry, and the murderous intent in his eyes surged, he was a little worried, and quickly explained, "Young master, this is Marshal Xianxia's plan, we are just following orders." Ji Tianxing did not comment, and asked in a deep voice, "It is said that the Broken Heaven Alliance is a civilian martial arts organization. Although it is distributed in the Heaven and Divine Nation, it is not under the jurisdiction of the Heaven and Divine Nation. Marshal Xianxia led a large number of divine guards to guard the border. Why didn't he send the experts under him to carry out the mission, but sent you to cause trouble? Could it be that the Broken Heaven Alliance has submitted to the Heaven and Divine Nation, and also has to listen to the Divine Nation's orders?" Teacher Lu quickly shook his head, and said with a blank expression, "Young master, I don't understand this matter, and dare not speculate." Ji Tianxing also understood, with Teacher Lu's strength, he could only be considered an elite expert in the Broken Heaven Alliance, and could not be a branch leader or hall master with real power. He did not pursue this matter, and asked again, "Other than you and Cong Feng, how many people did Marshal Xianxia send to infiltrate the Luo Shui Divine Nation to cause trouble?" Teacher Lu did not dare to hide, and quickly answered, "As far as I know, there are a total of 19 groups of people acting at the same time, and they are all elites of the Broken Heaven Alliance. Each group has 2 to 3 people, and they are responsible for disrupting a major city." Ji Tianxing slightly nodded, and said in a cold voice, "In the border area, there are more than 20 major cities near the Sunset Divine Mine. If all 19 main cities fell into chaos, they would definitely be able to hold back hundreds of thousands of troops. When the army arrives to reinforce the main cities, Yi Lu Shui will seize the opportunity to seize the Sunset Divine Mine. What a vicious plan." Teacher Lu lowered his head and said nervously, "Gongzi, this is all the information I know, and I've told you everything truthfully. I'm doing this to repay you for saving Qingwan and Ligan's lives. Furthermore, my actions have betrayed the heaven-shattering alliance. If anyone were to find out, I would have nowhere to hide." Ji Tianxing waved his hand and said expressionlessly, "Don't worry, I'm not a bloodthirsty person. I won't kill you to silence you. You should leave. Stay away from this troublesome place, lest you attract a fatal disaster." After which, Ji Tianxing released the golden palm and released Lu Shi. Lu Shi felt as though he had been pardoned, and his face was filled with gratitude. He hurriedly cupped his hands and bowed, "Thank you for sparing my life." I'll take my leave now. After bowing, he didn't even bother to circulate his qi to heal his injuries. He hurriedly turned around and flew away. Not long after, Lu Shi's figure disappeared into the night sky. Ji Tianxing stood on the black dragon's back and looked at the western night sky with a deep frown. The black dragon frowned and asked, "Old Ji, what do we do now? Do we still go to the Sunset Divine Mine? How about we rush to the main cities and deal with the heaven-shattering alliance first?" Ji Tianxing shook his head and said in a deep voice, "If Yi Liushui's divine guards infiltrate the Luoshui divine nation, they will definitely give themselves away. If they are caught, it will cause a war between the two nations." He used the heaven-shattering alliance to create chaos because he doesn't want to be exposed. Therefore, the dozen or so heaven-shattering alliance experts will definitely hide their tracks. If we rush over without a target, it will be difficult to find them. It will only be a waste of time. Our top priority is to get to the Sunset Divine Mine as soon as possible and discuss with Holy Emperor Chang'an. As for the heaven-shattering alliance experts, I will send a message to Granny Long and have her think of a way to deal with them. After speaking, Ji Tianxing took out a communication jade slip and sent out a message. The jade slip turned into a stream of light and quickly flew into the night sky and disappeared. After sending out the jade slip, Ji Tianxing did not waste any more time. He rode the black dragon to the west and rushed to the Sunset Divine Mine as quickly as possible. Originally, Ji Tianxing was still a day's journey from the Sunset Divine Mine. After the black dragon broke through to the Tribulation Transcendence realm, it completed a miraculous transformation. Its flying speed had increased by 6 times, which was even faster than Ji Tianxing's speed. 18 hours later, it was noon of the second day and the black dragon finally arrived at the Sunset Divine Mine. The Sunset Divine Mine was named after the Sunset Mountain Range. At the border of the two divine nations, there was an ancient mountain range with a radius of hundreds of millions of miles. It was filled with primitive forests and towering mountains. This area was very rich in heaven and earth spirit qi, and the underground mines were extremely rich. However, this place was remote and uninhabited, so it became a paradise for all kinds of ferocious demon beasts. Thousands of years ago, the Luoshui divine nation discovered endless mineral resources in the Sunset Mountain Range. Thus, the Luoshui divine nation sent out millions of soldiers and craftsmen. After spending hundreds of years, they opened up the famous Sunset Divine Mine. After thousands of years of development, the scale of the Sunset Divine Mine had expanded by more than 10 times. There were millions of soldiers stationed at the Sunset Divine Mine, patrolling day and night to protect the mine from being invaded. The entire Sunset Divine Mine was divided into hundreds of mining areas. There were more than 2 million miners working in each of the mining areas, mining day and night. Ji Tianxing arrived near the Sunset Divine Mine and put the black dragon into the Sword World to avoid shocking the world. He flew over the vast mountain range alone and looked down at the situation below. On the surface, there was an endless stretch of towering mountain ranges and a sea of dark green primeval forests below. But in reality, there were palaces and buildings in some mountain peaks and valleys every 5,000 miles. These palaces were used as camps for the mining areas. Those mining areas had names, and each camp could accommodate tens of thousands of miners and thousands of guards and supervisors. Even though the situation at the border was very tense and the armies of the two nations were facing each other, those mining areas were still operating normally. Ji Tianxing flew across the sky and quickly alerted the guards. He was surrounded by several teams. He showed his identity token and explained the purpose of his visit. The guards immediately bowed and apologized in fear. Ji Tianxing didn't care. He picked a guard captain and asked him to lead the way to Divine Emperor Chang'an. The guard captain seemed to have received a great honor. He was so excited that his face was flushed red. He hurriedly bowed to express his obedience. To be able to meet someone as important as Ji Tianxing and bring Ji Tianxing to meet Divine Emperor Chang'an was an honor that he didn't even dare to dream of. 6 hours later, the guard captain brought Ji Tianxing to the central region of the Sunset Divine Mine. They landed on a giant mountain that was 3,000 feet tall. This towering mountain was the core of the entire setting sun mountain range, and it was also the most majestic peak. Chapter 1823. In the afternoon, the scorching sun shone brightly. The setting sun peak was 10,000 meters tall, shrouded in the brilliant sunlight. It looked even more dazzling and magnificent. No one lived below the waist of the mountain. Vines and shrubs grew all over the mountain walls. The waist of the mountain was covered by white clouds and thick fog. The mountain walls were so steep that they were almost perfectly straight. There was a platform at the top of the mountain that was dozens of miles wide. It had already been built into a bustling city. There were tall and majestic city walls protecting it. Rows upon rows of houses and palaces sat in the city. They shone with golden light under the scorching sun. This city was named Setting Sun City. It had thousands of years of history and was one of the most important cities in the Luoshui Divine Kingdom. The city was heavily guarded both inside and outside. Teams of armored guards with swords could be seen patrolling the city. Even in the sky outside of Sunset City, there were many guards riding spirit beasts and flying birds, circling and cruising in the sky. Ji Tianxing arrived at the gates of Setting Sun City. He was only allowed to enter after showing his identity token. Half an hour later, he passed through half of Setting Sun City and entered the Palace of Longevity. The Palace of Longevity was named after Holy Emperor Longevity. For thousands of years, Holy Emperor Longevity had been guarding this place. He was responsible for the safety and daily operations of the Setting Sun Divine Mine. At this moment, the Palace of Longevity was in a tense state of alert. There were guards and soldiers lined up both inside and outside. Many scouts and messengers hurried in and out of the Palace of Longevity to report and convey all kinds of news. Perhaps Holy Emperor Longevity had already received news that Ji Tianxing was coming. When he stepped into the palace and announced his identity, the guards all bowed respectfully to welcome him. A guard captain led him into the Palace of Longevity and arranged for him to stay in a courtyard called Pine Tree. Young Master Ji, Lord Holy Emperor has instructed that if you come, you should stay in Pine Tree temporarily. You must be tired from rushing over from the Luotian Mountain. Rest here today. Tomorrow, I will bring you to meet Lord Holy Emperor. After the guard captain explained the situation to Ji Tianxing, he tactfully withdrew from the courtyard. Ji Tianxing stood in the pine tree courtyard, looking around with an indifferent expression. The courtyard was located in the depths of the everlasting Luck Palace. It could be considered a quiet place amidst the chaos. The environment was extremely quiet and secluded, suitable for recuperation. Apart from him, there were also a dozen guards and 9 young maids in the courtyard. They were all there to serve him and were on standby at all times. Although Ji Tianxing had been on the road for more than 20 days, he didn't feel tired at all. However, with Holy Emperor Changyun's arrangements, he could only stay for the time being and wait until they met tomorrow. The entire Sunset City is in a state of alert, and the Changyun Palace is very busy. Looks like the situation at the border is getting more and more tense. I reckon that Holy Emperor Long Luck is already very busy, right? Ji Tianxing murmured in a low voice. Then, he entered his bedroom and sat down to adjust his breathing. A day passed quickly. At noon the next day, Ji Tianxing was meditating in his room when footsteps suddenly came from outside the door. Then, he heard the guard captain respectfully reporting to young Master Ji, "The Holy Emperor is here." Ji Tianxing stopped cultivating. He stood up and straightened his clothes before walking out of the room. He stood still in the courtyard and saw 6 golden armored guards standing on both sides of the door. They respectfully knelt on the ground to welcome the Holy Emperor. A middle-aged man in a golden robe strode through the door and entered the courtyard. This man was 8 feet tall and had broad shoulders. He had a head of white hair that reached his waist and a dignified face. He exuded the arrogance and domineering aura of a martial saint. His steps were like the wind, and the wide purple cloak on his shoulders also fluttered in the wind. Ji Tianxing could obviously tell that this man was the everlasting Luck Martial Saint who was in charge of the Sunset Divine Mine. Moreover, the everlasting Luck Martial Saint's style of doing things was obviously swift and decisive. Other than the everlasting Luck Martial Saint, there was also a tall and handsome young man behind him. This person had the strength of a tribulation stage cultivator. He looked somewhat similar to the everlasting luck martial saint, and there was an air of arrogance between his brows. Ji Tianxing guessed that this young man was most likely the everlasting luck martial saint's nephew. The everlasting luck martial saint arrived in the courtyard and stood 10 steps away from Ji Tianxing. After sizing him up, he smiled and said, "Welcome to the Sunset City, young Master Ji." Young Master Ji just arrived yesterday and must be mentally exhausted. I was also busy with military affairs, so I didn't receive you. Please forgive me, young Master Ji. The everlasting luck martial saint's voice was dignified and loud. His attitude towards Ji Tianxing was also more polite. Ji Tianxing's expression was calm as he cupped his hands and bowed. Ji Tianxing greets the everlasting luck divine emperor. No need for formalities. The everlasting luck martial saint nodded slightly and walked into the guest hall. Let's talk inside. Then, the three of them entered the guest hall and sat down. Immediately, a servant girl came forward to serve tea. The everlasting luck divine emperor sat on the main seat and looked kindly at Ji Tianxing. He asked, "Young Master Ji, although the scenery of the Sunset City can't be compared to the Luotian Mountain, it's still a rare scenic spot in the world. You can stay here for a while." Then, he pointed to the young man sitting on the right and introduced him. "This is my son, Su Chen. You're all young people, so you can get to know each other." Back then, Su Chen was also a god disciple of the divine nation. He cultivated on the Luotian Mountain for more than 20 years. "I believe you'll have something to talk about." Ji Tianxing looked at Su Chen and nodded slightly in greeting. Su Chen also looked at him with a smile and cupped his hands. Su Chen greets young Master Ji. "During this time, my father has been busy with government affairs. I'm afraid he has no time to accompany young Master Ji. During this time, I'll take care of young Master Ji on behalf of my father." Although Ji Tianxing didn't need anyone to accompany him, he couldn't reject Su Chen's politeness. Thus, he nodded. "Thank you, young Master Su." Then, Ji Tianxing looked at Divine Emperor Chongyun with a solemn expression. "Divine Emperor Cheng, I believe Granny Long has told you that I'm here to resolve the danger of the divine mine. I saw the tense atmosphere inside and outside Setting Sun City and guessed that the situation at the border was worrying. Divine Emperor, can you tell me the specific situation at the border?" Hearing this, Su Chen frowned inwardly but didn't show it on his face. Divine Emperor Chongyun had expected this question. He said indifferently, "Before you came, Granny Long sent me a message and explained the situation. I believe you have some understanding of the situation at the Setting Sun Divine Mine. There are more than 260 mines in the Divine Mine. Each mine is managed by 2 commanders. There are hundreds of supervisors and tens of thousands of miners under them. There are more than 100 mines near the western border. More than 80 have been taken by the Heaven End Divine Nation. There are only a dozen mines left, but they have been invaded. Large amounts of ores and veins are lost every day. The armies of the Heaven End Divine Nation and the Heaven End Divine Nation are facing each other outside Drifting Cloud Mountain." Chapter 1824. Ji Tianxing couldn't help but frown when he heard that the situation at the border was so tense. He said seriously, "I didn't think that 30% of the Sunset Divine Mine had already been taken. I killed 2 experts from the Heaven End Divine Nation on my way here. After interrogating them, I found out that they were elites from the Broken Sky Alliance. They were ordered by Yi Lushui to sneak into our borders and cause disasters in the border cities." Divine Emperor Chongyun nodded and said with a solemn expression, "Young Master Ji is very considerate to be able to find out such important information. You have done a great service. Last night, Granny Long sent me a message to tell me about this. This emperor has already sent out 30 experts and 3,000 elite guards to search the main cities. Granny Long has also ordered the main cities to increase their vigilance and search for the culprits." Ji Tianxing was relieved and nodded. "Since Holy Emperor and Granny Long are taking this seriously, I'm sure we'll be able to find the culprits soon. Holy Emperor, I'm most worried about the situation at the border. Please take me there to see the situation at the border and the mines." Holy Emperor Chongyun immediately frowned and hesitated when this matter was brought up. "Young Master Ji, you've just arrived at Sunset City. You should rest well. There's no need to worry about this. What you need to do now is to preserve your strength and wait for me to launch a counterattack. Only then can you do your best to kill the enemy. After that, Holy Emperor Chang'an looked at Su Chen and ordered seriously, Su Chen, I won't be in Sunset City for the next few days. You must accompany young Master Ji. Young Master Ji is our nation's #1 god disciple and the husband of goddess Yun Yao. You can't neglect him. Su Chen quickly got up and bowed respectfully, Yes, Holy Emperor Cheng. Holy Emperor Chang'an nodded in satisfaction and looked kindly at Ji Tianxing, Young Master Ji, you can stay here. If you need anything, just let Su Chen know. I still have matters to attend to, so I won't be accompanying you. Farewell. Holy Emperor Chang'an waved his cloak and walked out of the hall. Su Chen also got up and left with Holy Emperor Chang'an. Ji Tianxing frowned slightly as he vaguely guessed something. He stood in the hall and looked at Holy Emperor Chang'an and Su Chen's backs, thinking expressionlessly. This Holy Emperor Chang'an clearly doesn't trust me. He only told me the general situation at the border but didn't go into the details. When it came to the mine's operations and plans, he didn't say anything. Judging from the father and son's words, they want me to recuperate peacefully in this courtyard and not interfere with the matter of the divine mine? What are they guarding them against? Or are they worried? While Ji Holy Emperor Chang'an's back, Holy Emperor Chang'an's Holy Emperor's Holy Emperor SSS Chang'an's S. He turned to look at Su Chen and warned him through voice transmission with a solemn expression. Su Chen, you should know Ji Tianxing's identity very well. So, nothing can happen to him, and nothing can happen to him in the Sunset Mine. Otherwise, I won't be able to bear the responsibility. Su Chen nodded and said solemnly, I understand. Father, please don't worry. I'll keep an eye on him. I won't let him leave Sunset City, and I won't let him risk his life. Only then did Divine Emperor Long Yun feel relieved. He then said, Granny Long is really muddle-headed. He actually allowed Ji Tianxing to rush to the Divine Mine alone and even wanted to resolve the crisis of the Divine Mine? How could Yi Lushui and his million-man army be so easy to deal with? Not to mention, Yi Lushui had gathered a large number of elites from the Broken Heaven Alliance, and even this emperor was helpless against him. No matter how monstrous Ji Tianxing was, he was just a weakling in the crossing tribulation stage. Even if he had unimaginable ability and wisdom, he was still alone. Granny Long sending him here at this time is simply causing trouble for this emperor. Divine Emperor Long Yun's tone was a bit angry. He was clearly very worried. Su Chen hurriedly comforted him, Father, don't worry about this. Go and deal with your affairs. I'll keep an eye on Ji Tianxing and won't let him cause trouble. That's good. Divine Emperor Long Yun nodded in satisfaction. He said emotionally, So what if Ji Tianxing is the #1 genius of the continent? He's still an arrogant and reckless brat. Sooner or later, he'll land himself in a desperate situation or even die young. My son is still the most worry-free. He knows when to advance and when to retreat. He's calm and collected. Only like this can he take on great responsibilities. Su Chen was already used to Divine Emperor Long Yun's praise. He wasn't proud and only listened silently. A moment later, Divine Emperor Long Yun collected his thoughts and left with the golden armored guards. After Divine Emperor Long Yun left, Su Chen returned to the courtyard. He entered the living room and saw Ji Tianxing sitting on a chair with an indifferent expression, slowly sipping a cup of spirit tea. He smiled and greeted him. Young Master Ji, I've cultivated on Luotian Mountain for more than 20 years. I'm very familiar with every inch of the mountain. Now that young Master Ji has rushed over from Luotian Mountain, I feel very close to you. I haven't gone back for more than 10 years. Can young Master Ji tell me if there are any changes on Luotian Mountain? Divine Emissary Li and Divine Emissary Lu, how are their bodies now? Su Chen smiled. His tone and eyes were very sincere. It was obvious that he wanted to get closer to Ji Tianxing. That was why he took the initiative to talk. However, Ji Tianxing's reaction was a bit cold. He slowly put down the teacup and slowly turned to look at him. He asked expressionlessly, Your father has already left. Do you still plan to stay here? Su Chen's body froze and he felt a bit awkward. However, he immediately returned to normal and said with a smile, "Young Master Ji must be joking. You're a guest from afar. As the host, I naturally have to treat you well. Father is busy with government affairs and has no time to accompany you. Please forgive him." Su Chen's attitude was very humble. There wasn't any anger in his words. As the saying goes, one doesn't slap a smiling face. Ji Tianxing couldn't pursue the matter any further and could only drop it for now. Since that's the case, then I'll have to ask young Master Su to accompany me on a tour of Setting Sun City so that I can quickly familiarize myself with the situation. It would be my honor. Su Chen cupped his hands and happily agreed. Then, the two of them left Pine Courtyard together. They rode 2 snow-white Pegasi and strolled around Setting Sun City. As they strolled, Su Chen enthusiastically chatted with Ji Tianxing. He introduced him to the various streets, palaces, and buildings in the city. On the surface, the two of them really looked like they were on a scenic tour, enjoying the scenery. When the two of them finished strolling around the city, night had already fallen. Su Chen sent Ji Tianxing back to Pine Courtyard and stayed in the palace next door. Chapter 1825. Under the curtain of night, Sunset City was quiet and peaceful. Only the Changyun Palace was lit all night, with flickering figures going in and out. It was still busy. In the Pine Courtyard, Ji Tianxing sat upright in his room, meditating and adjusting his breath. In fact, he wasn't cultivating. He was secretly releasing his divine sense to quietly investigate the situation in the Changyun Palace. Although Su Chen had taken him around the palace during the day, he could only see some palace buildings on the surface. The real secret places were very hidden. He could only use his divine sense to investigate and distinguish, hoping to find some clues. In order not to be discovered, he didn't dare to release his divine sense at full strength. He could only explore the situation in the palace bit by bit and eavesdrop on the movements everywhere in the palace. Throughout the night, he eavesdropped on the conversations and exchanges of thousands of people. However, those thousands of people were all soldiers and guards. The content of their conversations was also insignificant. Even if Ji Tianxing filtered and analyzed it, it was difficult to summarize any useful clues and information. Not long after, the sky brightened. The next morning, Su Chen came to the Pine Courtyard to visit Ji Tianxing again. This time, he didn't take Ji Tianxing out to play. Instead, he brought 2 sets of top-grade spirit tea for Ji Tianxing to taste. The two sat under the 1,000-year-old pine in the courtyard, brewed the top-grade spirit tea, and set up a game of Go. They chatted while drinking tea. Ji Tianxing knew very well that Su Chen accompanying him was fake and monitoring him. On the surface, he was dealing with Su Chen, chatting casually and playing Go absent-mindedly. Secretly, he released his divine sense to investigate the movements in the Changyun Palace, paying special attention to the scouts and messengers. This method was indeed effective. In just 4 hours, he found a lot of useful information. Su Chen was very smart. He could see that Ji Tianxing was absent-minded and guessed that he was secretly investigating the situation. Therefore, as he placed a piece, he said with a smile, "When I was cultivating in Luotian Mountain, I was young and often couldn't cultivate in peace. Later, Divine Emissary Willow taught me how to play Go. Only by playing Go can one fully concentrate and have a clear mind. I'm ashamed to say this, but during the 20-plus years I've been cultivating in the Luotian Mountain, other than cultivating, I've spent all my time playing chess. So much so that no one in the entire Luotian Mountain is my match. Even Divine Envoy Willow, who taught me chess, no longer wants to play chess with me." Ji Tianxing said casually, "Well, I can see that young Master Su's chess skills are exquisite. It is indeed difficult to find a match." Su Chen smiled and probed, "When young Master Ji was cultivating in the Luotian Mountain, didn't you play chess with the other god disciples?" "I don't have the time, and I'm not interested," Ji Tianxing said indifferently. Su Chen revealed a look of surprise and said, "This shouldn't be. I see that young Master Ji has an extraordinary manner of speaking and has an elegant temperament. I presume that you come from a noble family and should have been able to play chess since you were young. Just now, the two of us played 6 rounds, and young Master Ji lost 6 rounds in a row. I'm afraid you didn't put in any effort, did you? Hearing this, Ji Tianxing slowly put down the chess piece in his hand and said in a low voice, "Are you trying to anger me and force me to focus on playing chess with you?" "I wouldn't dare." Su Chen hurriedly waved his hands. How could he dare to admit it? Ji Tianxing was not angry. He looked at him calmly and said, "Your father doesn't want me to interfere with the matter of the god's mine, so he asked you to keep an eye on me, right?" No, young Master Ji misunderstood. Su Chen still shook his head without changing his expression and flatly denied it. Ji Tianxing continued, "I'm going to the border now to check on the arrangement of the armies of the two countries. You definitely won't agree, right?" Su Chen nodded and said, "That's true. You can just stay here and play chess with me. Why do you have to take the risk of going to the border?" Ji Tianxing's lips curled into a playful smile and asked, "Just now, you said that you've been playing chess in the Luotian Mountain for more than 20 years and no one can defeat you. If that's the case, do you dare to make a bet with me? If you lose, you won't come to the Pine Courtyard to keep an eye on me. How about it?" Su Chen refused without hesitation and said, "Young Master Ji is too kind. You're a guest, how could I dare to make a bet with you?" Ji Tianxing chuckled and said, "You don't dare or you don't care. My chess skills are so bad, what are you afraid of? How about this? If I still lose, I won't interfere with the god's mine anymore. I'll immediately bid farewell to Divine Emperor Changyun and return to the Luotian Mountain." Hearing this, Su Chen's eyes flashed and a smile appeared on his resolute face. He stared at Ji Tianxing with sparkling eyes and asked in a serious tone, "Young Master Ji, is this true?" Ji Tianxing looked straight at him and said firmly, "I'm a man of my word." Good. Su Chen couldn't contain his excitement and agreed, "Since young Master Ji is in such a good mood, then I'll respectfully accept." While speaking, he waved his sleeve and swept the board clean. The game began anew. Ji Tianxing took the white pieces and Su Chen took the black pieces. Just like before, the two of them quickly laid down their pieces. Su Chen carefully laid out his pieces and thought to himself excitedly, "Ji Tianxing is indeed smart. He saw through my father's thoughts and intentions and didn't want him to interfere with the god's mine. How could a proud and arrogant person like him swallow such humiliation? Now that I'm watching him and he's at his wit's end, he wants to make a bet with me. My chess skills can be ranked in the top 10 in the entire Luotian kingdom. I'm qualified to play against the chess saint. He'll definitely lose today and have to fulfill his end of the bet. He'll obediently leave the city and return to the Luotian Mountain." Ji Tianxing had lost 6 games in a row and all of them were a complete mess. Su Chen was naturally full of confidence and had full confidence that victory was within his grasp. He could already see Ji Tianxing dejectedly admitting defeat and leaving the city with a gloomy expression. 15 minutes passed quickly. There were already hundreds of chess pieces on the chessboard. Black and white pieces crisscrossed each other. Ji Tianxing was still the same as before. His expression was indifferent, and his eyes were calm and deep. However, the confident Su Chen's face was pale and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. He held a black piece in his hand and it hung stiffly in the air, unable to land. Most of the black pieces on the chessboard were dead and only had a sliver of life left. The white pieces were majestic and filled with murderous intent. They had already become the general trend. Su Chen stared at the chessboard, his eyes filled with shock and disbelief. How is this possible? Ji Tianxing isn't proficient in chess at all. How did he suddenly become so powerful? An inescapable net, killer moves everywhere. Only a sliver of life is left, but it's also a trap. This is the 9 dragons burning the heavens layout. This is the chess saint Xie Wudao's ultimate skill. After a long silence, Su Chen raised his head with difficulty and looked at Ji Tianxing with a complicated expression. "Young Master Ji, I admit defeat." Su Chen's voice was bitter. It was hoarse and trembling. After admitting defeat, he dejectedly put away the chess pieces and wiped the sweat off his forehead. Chapter 1826. Ji Tianxing had won against Su Chen, but his expression was as calm as still water. When he heard Su Chen's question, he raised his eyebrows and revealed a puzzled expression. "What chess saint? Xie Wudao?" That kid has become the chess saint? Who gave him that title? Ji Tianxing asked Su Chen without thinking, his face full of surprise. Su Chen was dumbfounded on the spot. He stared at Ji Tianxing with his mouth agape, his lips trembling. That kid? Young Master Ji, you actually offended the chess saint? Su Chen had long heard of Ji Tianxing's name and deeds. He knew that he was the #1 genius of the younger generation and that he was an extremely arrogant person. However, he had never imagined that Ji Tianxing would dare to call the chess saint by his name and even call him that kid. Chess Saint Xie Wudao was very respected in his heart, and he was comparable to his father. He could not tolerate Ji Tianxing's blasphemy against the chess saint. However, Ji Tianxing glanced at him and asked with a faint smile, "Young Master Su, it seems that you admire Xie Wudao a lot?" Su Chen replied without hesitation, "Of course. Chess Saint Xie Wudao is one of the 10 great martial saints of the country. He founded the Black-White College and created the world-famous Daolist sword manual. He is the #1 chess player in the world. He merged chess and swordsmanship and created the black and white sword Qi. Even the Divine Master often praises him. Young Master Ji, although you are the #1 genius of the younger generation, you must not blaspheme the chess saint's name." When he spoke of chess saint Xie Wudao's reputation and honor, Su Chen's tone was passionate and full of admiration. Ji Tianxing, on the other hand, revealed a playful smile as he thought to himself, I really didn't expect that the most good-for-nothing kid who doesn't do proper work would have such accomplishments today." When he thought of Xie Wudao, memories of the past surfaced in his mind. 1,000 years ago, Kenshin had guarded Tianzhu Mountain and challenged all the martial saints of the world. Countless martial saints had come to challenge him, but they had all been defeated by his sword. In just a few short years, his name had spread throughout the entire Shenwu continent, and countless martial artists worshipped him. Almost every day, countless young martial artists would travel thousands of miles to the Pillar of Heaven's mountains to seek guidance from their masters. Although there were more than 200 disciples in the Pillar of Heaven's mountains. However, there were only a few people that Ji Tianxing could still remember. After all, those people had distinctive characteristics that left a deep impression on him. For example, Little White, who was the most thick-skinned of them all, would later become the White Dragon God. Another example was Xie Wudao, who loved chess as much as his life. That skinny kid had dark skin like a skinny monkey, but his eyes were abnormally bright. He was always dressed in a greasy black robe, and his hair was as messy as a chicken's nest. His favorite thing to do was to hold a set of purple jade chess and disturb his fellow apprentices when they were practicing their swordsmanship. Kenshin had noticed this person before. He had asked Huang Long to remind Xie Wudao to focus on practicing the sword and not to neglect his duties. More importantly, he should not disturb other people's cultivation. However, Xie Wudao did not repent and continued to be obsessed with chess. As usual, he went around looking for people to play chess with, causing his fellow apprentices to avoid him. Later, Huang Long became angry and wanted to expel Xie Wudao from the sect and chase him down the mountain. Xie Wudao knelt down and begged for mercy, kneeling for an entire night in the rain. Huang Long reported this matter to Kenshin, and Kenshin was especially kind and personally summoned Xie Wudao. In a secret room, Xie Wudao explained the cause of the matter. It turned out that his father was a chess master who had taught him chess since he was a child and insisted that the art of chess could reach the heavens. When the Xie family had been attacked by a powerful enemy and was completely wiped out, Xie Wudao's father had given him an ancient chess manual and a purple jade chessboard before his death. Because of this, Xie Wudao had inherited his father's unfulfilled wish and decided to train hard in chess in hopes of reaching the heavens. In order to avoid being hunted down by his enemies and to take revenge, he had traveled thousands of miles to the Pillar of Heaven's mountains. After learning about Xie Wudao's experience, Kenshin had decided to teach him. Kenshin took the ancient chess manual and studied it for 9 days and 9 nights, understanding all the mysteries within. Then he passed on the contents of the chess manual to Xie Wudao, correcting and perfecting it, and also taught him the mysteries of swordsmanship. Xie Wudao was enlightened and went into seclusion to train hard, thanking Kenshin profusely. As for what happened after that, Kenshin left before Xie Wudao could complete his training. The memories ended there. Ji Tianxing came back to his senses and saw Su Chen staring straight at him. Young Master Ji, I hope you can sincerely apologize to the chess saint for your inappropriate words and actions just now. Su Chen stared at him with a solemn expression and said in a serious tone. Ji Tianxing smiled and said in a playful tone, even if I apologize, would Xie Wudao dare to accept it? Su Chen was stunned for a moment and his expression became even stranger. There was a faint anger in his heart. He wanted to say something, but Ji Tianxing waved his hand and said seriously, Su Chen, you've lost, so you have to leave Pine Courtyard. Don't follow me anymore. Su Chen's expression was a little ugly. He pursed his lips but could not refute. He was shocked and regretful. He hated himself for making a bet with Ji Tianxing and falling into his trap. After a moment of silence, he cupped his hands and said, Young Master Ji, don't worry. I'm not someone who goes back on my words. I'll fulfill the bet now. After saying that, Su Chen sighed silently and turned to leave unwillingly. After leaving Pine Courtyard, Su Chen hurried to the depths of Changyun Palace and entered a secret chamber in the palace. In the secret chamber, bright lights were lit all around. A wide white jade table was placed in the middle. There was a large topographic map on the table and many memorials and documents were piled up. The golden-robed Holy Emperor Changyun was standing beside the table. He stared at the map with a serious expression and frowned in deep thought. Su Chen came to the table and bowed respectfully. Son greets father. Holy Emperor Changyun was still staring at the table. He did not look up and asked in a dignified tone, Didn't I tell you to keep an eye on Ji Tianxing? Did something happen? Su Chen was very nervous. He hesitated for a moment before mustering up the courage to say, Father, I'm here to admit my mistake and be punished. I was muddle-headed and fell into Ji Tianxing's trap. Holy Emperor Changyun suddenly looked up and asked with a sharp gaze, What happened? Su Chen lowered his head in shame and reported truthfully, Just now, I was playing chess with Ji Tianxing in the courtyard and he proposed to make a bet with me. After hearing the story, Holy Emperor Changyun's expression changed. He frowned and scolded in a deep voice, Muddle-headed. Son, how could you be so stupid? I've already warned you. Although Ji Tianxing is arrogant, he's still the #1 prodigy. His strength and tricks are extraordinary. You were too confident in your chess skills. That's why you agreed to his bet. In the end, you fell into his trap and were played by him. Chapter 1827. Holy Emperor Changyun knew his son very well. He knew Su Chen's strengths and weaknesses. He was calm and steady and could achieve great things, but he was too conceited in chess. Therefore, he was very angry, but he didn't scold Su Chen. After a moment of silence, Holy Emperor Changyun looked at Su Chen and asked, Chen, you've already lost the first round with Ji Tianxing. What do you plan to do next? Su Chen thought for a moment and said solemnly, I've lost, so I'll keep my promise and stop watching him. However, I'll send people to watch him and try to stop him. I won't let him go to the front line and cause trouble. We're already short on manpower. If we send more people to protect him, I'm afraid more minds will be lost. Holy Emperor Changyun frowned and thought for a moment before saying, Ji Tianxing isn't an ordinary person. We must be very careful. We can't clash with him, but we can't let anything happen to him either. I've just thought about it and I have a safer way. After that, Holy Emperor Changyun leaned close to Su Chen's ear and warned him in a low voice. After hearing this, Su Chen's eyes flashed. He quickly nodded and said, Father, I understand. Then he bowed to Holy Emperor Changyun and left the secret room. Half an hour later, Su Chen stepped into Pine Courtyard with a smile and went to find Ji Tianxing. However, he didn't see Ji Tianxing after searching several rooms and secret rooms. He quickly found the guard captain and asked in a low voice, Where's young Master Ji? Where did he go? The guard captain replied respectfully, Just half an hour ago, young Master Ji left the courtyard and went out. Su Chen's expression changed and he shouted coldly, Didn't I tell you to watch him and not let him leave? The guard captain quickly knelt and said in fear and trepidation, But Young Master, you said in front of young Master Ji that you won't watch him anymore. So, when young Master Ji said he wanted to go out for a walk, I didn't dare stop him. Su Chen was anxious and angry. He asked, "Did he say where he was going?" "I don't know," the guard captain replied. "Which direction did he go?" Su Chen asked again. The guard captain answered again, "I don't know either, damn it." Su Chen was so angry that his face turned green. He roared, "Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and find him." This subordinate obeys. The guard captain hurriedly got up and hurriedly gathered a few guards to search for Ji Tianxing's traces. Su Chen took a deep breath to suppress the anger in his heart and quickly left. The afternoon sun was very bright. Ji Tianxing remained invisible and flew out of Sunset City without anyone noticing. After leaving Sunset City, he flew straight to the west, heading for the border region. Before coming to the setting sun divine mine, Ji Tianxing had already carefully read the map given to him by Granny Long and memorized it. Right now, he knew the terrain and the distribution of people inside the divine mine like the back of his hand. It was just that he hadn't observed it on the spot and didn't know some of the secret information. Sunset City was 200,000 miles away from the drifting cloud mountain at the border. Ji Tianxing flew at full speed for an entire day and night before reaching the vicinity of the drifting cloud mountain. The drifting cloud mountain, as its name suggested, was like the clouds in the sky, uniform and long. The entire mountain range was about 100,000 miles long from the north to the south. It was a famous stronghold on the border between the two countries. West of the drifting cloud mountain was the territory of the Heaven and God Nation, and east of the mountain range was the territory of the Luoshui God Nation. Ji Tianxing arrived at the drifting cloud mountain in the afternoon. There was no sun in the sky, only thick clouds. It was oppressive and gloomy. He hid in the clouds high up in the sky and secretly looked down. To the west of the towering mountain range was a vast and boundless plain. On the plain covered with forests and grass, there were 4 majestic military camps. Each camp took up 100 miles of land and was made up of countless palaces and wooden houses. They were surrounded by tall and sturdy black walls. There was a defensive formation set up in the camps, and it was constantly activated. It formed a 5-colored light barrier that covered the entire camp. These 4 camps were built temporarily. From the details, it could be seen that the craftsmen of the Tianju divine nation were skilled. After observing for a while, Ji Tianxing noticed that the banners in the 4 camps were fluttering in the wind. There were teams of fully armed guards patrolling the area continuously. There were also guards riding birds in the sky, monitoring the movements of the surroundings. The 4 camps were heavily guarded. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to sneak in. Most importantly, Ji Tianxing found a problem. The 4 camps were built like cities. The wooden houses were for the ordinary soldiers and the palaces in the middle were for the generals. But he couldn't find where the Marshal Saint Yi Lushui and the Divine Guard army were. Thus, he looked to the east of the mountain range. There were many peaks and valleys to the east of the drifting cloud mountain. The terrain was rather steep and it was impossible to set up a camp. 50,000 miles away from the drifting cloud mountain, there were many flat valleys and 6 camps were set up. The scale of each camp was not as majestic as the Tianju Divine Nation's camp. In the 6 camps, there were different flags flying. There were more than 100,000 soldiers stationed in each camp. Ji Tianxing observed the flags and understood that the 6 camps represented the armies of the 6 empires. He couldn't help but frown and thought to himself, the Tianju Divine Nation claims to have 1,000,000 soldiers. But regardless of origin or country, they are all divided into 4 armies. The Luo River Divine Nation's 1,000,000 soldiers were mobilized from the 6 empires. But they were divided into 6 armies according to country. In addition, the terrain of this area is complicated and steep. The Luo River Divine Nation's army is obviously at a disadvantage. Fortunately, the 2 empires won't really go to war. Otherwise, the situation of the Luo River Divine Nation would be worrying. An hour later, he figured out the situation of the camps of the 2 countries and left the cloud layer in stealth mode. The confrontation between the armies of the 2 countries on the ground is just a facade. Even if the two empires have 1,000,000 soldiers, it is useless. The real battle is in the underground mining area. Ji Tianxing muttered to himself and quietly drilled into the ground. The moment he entered the ground, he could clearly feel that the soil and rocks around him contained a strong metallic aura. The metallic aura was especially thick. He just needed to circulate his energy slightly and he could gather large amounts of golden light. It didn't take long for him to reach a depth of 100 miles and enter a mine. The huge and spacious mine was humid and hot. There were many stone lamps on the walls, emitting a weak light. There were hundreds of miners wearing coarse linen clothes. They were waving their pickaxes and shovels, digging into the rock layer and mining for dark green ores. Chapter 1828. Ji Tianxing remained invisible and hid in a corner of the mine, observing silently. He quickly realized that the miners and supervisors were from the Heaven End God Nation. Obviously, this mining area had been occupied by the people of Heaven End Divine Nation, and they were frantically mining day and night. According to the markings on the map, this is mining area C64, about 8,000 miles in radius. The bandits of Heaven End Divine Nation have forcefully occupied this mining area, and they want to mine the ore veins as quickly as possible to snatch the resources. Otherwise, when things calm down in the future and Luoshui Divine Nation reclaims the lost land, Heaven End Divine Nation won't be able to obtain much benefits. Ji Tianxing knew the psychology of bandits like the back of his hand. He could see that the people of Heaven End Divine Nation were desperately mining the ore veins. Even if they destroyed the entire structure of the ore veins, they wanted to plunder as much resources as possible. The entire mining area has been occupied. There are at least tens of thousands of miners and thousands of supervisors, and there are also powerhouses overseeing it. I can't make a move now, otherwise, it will alarm a large number of powerhouses to encircle and annihilate. Although Ji Tianxing was angry and full of killing intent, he calmed down and calmed down. However, he calmly thought about it and decided to bide his time and continue to observe. Maintaining his stealth state, he used the earth-burrowing secret technique to silently travel through the ground. In just an hour, he had scouted the entire mining area. The situation was as he expected. In more than 50 mines, there were tens of thousands of miners desperately mining. There were thousands of Essence Soul Realm supervisors and a few Tribulation Realm powerhouses overseeing it. Once they started fighting, it would definitely be earth-shattering. Ji Tianxing had to leave the mining area and continue to shuttle east. Next, he explored more than 20 mining areas in a row for the whole day. These mining areas were all occupied by Heaven End Divine Nation, and the situation was more or less the same. A large number of miners were frantically mining. All kinds of spirit stones, metal ores, and rare gems were mined by the miners and handed over to the supervisors. The supervisors then handed over the ore resources to the commander guarding the mining area. The commander of each mining area was a Tribulation Realm powerhouse, and there were 3 to 5 Tribulation Realm powerhouses under his command. In the hands of these commanders, a large number of ore resources were regularly handed over to Heaven End Divine Nation's camp. After Ji Tianxing investigated the situation, he really wanted to assassinate the leaders of the various mining areas and snatch the ore resources. However, after some consideration, he temporarily suppressed this idea. After all, these mining areas were all occupied by the Heaven Absolute Divine Nation. He couldn't save them alone. Even if he assassinated the mine commanders, the amount of ore he could get back was limited. He would also expose his whereabouts and be surrounded by many experts. The 80-plus mining areas near Drifting Cloud Mountain have all been occupied by the Heaven Extinction Divine Nation. I can't save them for now. Now, I can only rush to the mining areas that are still being fought over. After making up his mind, Ji Tianxing continued to head east. That night, he entered Mine D36 and hid in the dark to observe the situation. The mine was very quiet, and only the soldiers of the Luoshui Divine Nation were guarding it. The miners had long since left. Without a doubt, this mining area was currently being fought over. It was one of the targets of the Heaven Absolute Divine Nation. Ji Tianxing scouted the mining area and discovered 4 Tribulation Transcendence Realm experts, more than 100 Essence Soul Realm experts, and more than 2,000 ordinary soldiers. Everyone was on high alert, constantly monitoring the movements around them. Many soldiers and experts had expressions of fear and uneasiness. Their nerves were also in a tense state. Ji Tianxing hid in the dark and eavesdropped on the conversations of many soldiers. The night before, Mine D34 was attacked by the people of the Heaven Absolute Divine Nation. More than half of them died. I heard that the mining area has already been lost. I also heard that there were not many people who attacked. There were only 20 or so people, but they were all Tribulation Transcendence Realm experts. One of my brothers escaped from Mine D34. He personally told me that those people died horrible deaths. Their fates were extremely miserable. Mine D34 is right next to us. I'm afraid it will be attacked tonight. Everyone, good luck. How can we resist the experts of the Heaven Absolute Divine Nation with just this few people? If a fight really breaks out later, everyone should just run for their lives. Sigh. Why can't Lord Saint Emperor send more experts to guard the mining area? We are just cannon fodder sent to our deaths. Ji Tianxing could hear that the emotions of the soldiers were filled with anxiety. This was very dangerous. Once the experts of the Heaven Absolute Divine Nation attacked, the soldiers would definitely be defeated. This is the place. I want to see what the experts of the Heaven Absolute Divine Nation are capable of. Ji Tianxing made up his mind. He lurked in the corner of the mine and waited quietly. Very quickly, 6 hours passed. It was the second half of the night, the darkest moment before dawn. The soldiers had been on guard for an entire day. Their nerves had been stretched taut. At this moment, they were a little sleepy and relaxed. But at this moment, danger quietly descended. Ji Tianxing suddenly saw that in a corner of the mine, 2 soldiers were suddenly wrapped in a layer of black light and silently sank into the ground. In the blink of an eye, the 2 soldiers were swallowed by the rock layer, leaving only a pool of blood on the ground. During the entire process, the 2 soldiers did not have the strength to resist and did not make a sound. Next, in another corner of the mine, 3 soldiers gathered together, were also swallowed by a cloud of gray fog and quietly disappeared. Similar scenes were playing out in every corner of the mine. In just 20 breaths of time, more than half of the more than 40 soldiers guarding the mine had disappeared. Ji Tianxing quickly released his divine sense to explore the ground and sensed the aura of more than 10 experts underground. Those experts in the tribulation stage were in a state of invisibility. They clearly divided the work and used secret methods to assassinate the soldiers in the mine. In a short while, more than 40 soldiers were killed, leaving only 3 experts in the primordial soul realm. They also sensed that something was wrong. Seeing that the soldiers in the mine had disappeared, they immediately screamed for help in horror and ran out of the mine. However, the entrance and exit of the mine were sealed by the black light. The 3 experts in the primordial soul realm could not escape the mine, and even their voices could not be transmitted out. Then, a few more rays of black light, gray fog, and light shadows came and killed the 3 experts on the spot. The whole mine was quiet. Except for Ji Tianxing, only the 16 experts in the tribulation stage were left. 14 of them quickly left the mine and sneaked into the next mine to continue to assassinate the guards. 2 experts stayed and jointly controlled a pitch-black gourd to devour the underground mine. The metal mine that was dozens of miles long was quickly devoured by the black gourd magic treasure and was soon uprooted. The whole process was very covert and did not make any huge movements. It was really undetectable. Ji Tianxing secretly watched the whole process and finally understood the other party's methods. Chapter 1829. Whoosh! The invisible Ji Tianxing silently passed through the underground and arrived behind the 2 tribulation transcendence experts. Both of them were in the 3rd level of the tribulation transcendence realm. They were both wearing black robes and masks. They cooperated very well. The 2 of them were channeling and controlling the black gourd to devour the 2nd spirit stone vein. They did not notice anything strange. Ji Tianxing attacked with lightning speed. He formed a sword with his hands and stabbed at the back of the two experts' heads. Whoosh whoosh. Two extremely sharp golden sword lights instantly pierced through the back of the two experts' heads, piercing their minds and souls. In just an instant, the bodies and souls of the two experts were killed instantly. They were completely dead. The two corpses slowly fell and leaned against the rock layer. They did not make a sound. The pitch-black Dharma treasure gourd also lost the support of magic power. It floated silently in the darkness. Ji Tianxing grabbed the black gourd and checked it with his divine sense. He immediately found some clues. The gold-devouring gourd? Isn't this the Dharma treasure of the Mound Hill sect from 1,000 years ago? Back then, the Mound Hill sect attracted a lot of attention. They were besieged and annihilated by powerful enemies. Even their secret techniques were lost. Why would someone from the Heavens and Divine Nation have the gold-devouring gourd? Ji Tianxing held the gold-devouring gourd and pondered with a frown. Then he rummaged through the two corpses, trying to find some identification or emblem. Unfortunately, the two corpses did not wear any badges. There were no badges on their clothes or masks. Ji Tianxing took off their interspatial rings and searched for a while. Not only did he find many cultivation resources and Dharma treasures, but he also found two badges. The two badges were shaped like swords. They were completely golden. Mysterious patterns were carved on the front and the words, Heaven-breaking, were carved on the back. They really are from the Heaven-breaking Alliance. The Heaven-breaking Alliance accepts martial artists from all over the world regardless of race or nationality. Maybe they took in the descendants of the Mound Hill sect? Ji Tianxing guessed in his heart. Only then could he explain the origin of the gold-devouring gourd. Whoosh! He waved his hand and shot out two balls of golden fire. They quickly burned the two corpses to ashes. Then, he put the gold-devouring gourd into his spatial ring and silently rushed to the mine next door. When he passed through the thick rock layer and arrived at the mine next door, a silent massacre was taking place. More than 40 guards in the mine were silently killed by the black light, gray fog, and magic shadows that emerged from the ground. Ji Tianxing was already clear about the other party's methods, so he no longer stood by and watched. He directly made his move. He wielded the Sword of Burial of Heaven, opened the Sword World, and released Ji Bai Shohei. All the men in black are elites of the Heaven-Shattering Alliance. Kill them all. Ji Tianxing ordered coldly. Ji Bai and Shohei did not doubt his orders, nor did they hesitate. They immediately drilled into the rock stratum and launched a sneak attack. Ji Tianxing also wielded the Sword of Burial of Heaven, appearing and disappearing unpredictably underground, assassinating one Broken Heaven Alliance elite after another. Swish, swish, swish. His figure constantly flickered. Every time the Sword of Burial of Heaven stabbed out, it would take the life of a Broken Heaven Alliance elite. In just 10 breaths, Ji Tianxing had consecutively assassinated 4 elite experts. They were all killed with a single strike. Even their bodies and souls were instantly pierced through by the Sword of Burial of Heaven. Ji Bai and Shohei were also natural assassins. They were best at concealment and assassination. Their saber and sword techniques were unparalleled. The two of them cooperated well. They had never failed to assassinate Broken Heaven Alliance elites. In just 20 breaths, 13 of the 14 elite experts in the mine had been assassinated. Among them, Ji Tianxing killed 7. Ji Bai and Shohei killed 5. The last remaining elite expert was scared out of his wits when he realized that all his companions had been killed. He desperately ran back. However, no matter how fast he ran, he was not faster than the Sword of Burial of Heaven. Swish! A cold light flashed. The Sword of Burial of Heaven pierced through layers of rocks and/or veins, accurately stabbing into the back of his head. Blood splattered. The cold light was dazzling. The last elite expert was also killed in an instant. His physical body and divine soul turned into an ice-cold corpse. The Sword of Burial of Heaven flew back into Ji Tianxing's hand and became cold and silent again. Ji Tianxing ordered Ji Bai and Shohei, search the spatial rings of each corpse. Leave them to me. Also, destroy the corpses. Ji Bai and Shou Hei cupped their fists and immediately spread out to search for the spatial rings and destroy the 14 corpses. Not long after, the two of them handed the 14 spatial rings to Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing opened the spatial rings one by one and took the pills and spirit stones inside for himself. He also found 14 golden sword tokens. In addition, he also found 7 pitch-black mysterious gold devouring gourds. This discovery made him frown fiercely. He realized that something was wrong. 7 gold devouring gourds? Including the one from before, there are 8 in total. 1 for every 2 people. Damn it. How could the people of the Broken Heaven Alliance have so many gold devouring gourds? Could it be that the Broken Heaven Alliance has mastered the secret refining method of the gold devouring gourds and can mass produce them? If that's the case, then we're in big trouble. Ji Tianxing was very clear that 1 gold devouring gourd could devour dozens of mineral veins. If the experts of the Broken Heaven Alliance were equipped with gold devouring gourds, they could plunder thousands or even tens of thousands of mineral veins in one night. Such a terrifying plundering speed was simply shocking. No wonder more than 80 mining areas of the Sunset Divine Mine were lost in just a short month. The people of the Heavens and Divine Nation had long planned this. Ji Tianxing put away the gold devouring gourds and golden sword tokens and rushed to the next mine with a gloomy face. At the same time, the dozen or so guards who were lucky enough to survive in this mine all ran out of the mine in panic. Everyone screamed for help. Some people even sent out signal arrows and communication jade slips. The news quickly spread to the surrounding mines. But no one responded to these survivors, and no experts came to rescue them. It was because the various mines in this mining area were attacked by black-clothed experts, and thousands of people had already died. The various mines fell into chaos. The guards and Essence Soul experts were trying their best to encircle those black-clothed experts. Unfortunately, the difference in strength between the two sides was too great. The black-clothed experts were all elites of the Broken Heaven Alliance. Not only did they come prepared, they also had a large number of secret techniques and treasures. It was very difficult for ordinary guards and Essence Soul experts to injure those experts. Instead, they were quickly slaughtered, and the number of people decreased sharply. The few Tribulation Transcendence experts guarding the mining area were also besieged by many black-clothed experts. They were either killed on the spot or escaped with serious injuries. The entire mining area fell into chaos, and the guards were utterly defeated. Ji Tianxing also did not expect that the Heavens and Divine Nation would actually send out so many elites of the Broken Heaven Alliance at once. The number of people exceeded 100. The situation was so critical. Ji Bai and Shou Hei did not hold back anymore. They went all out to assassinate those elite experts. This hidden battle lasted for a full 6 hours before it ended. Ji Tianxing was unscathed, and Ji Bai and Shou Hei were lightly injured. But they killed 99 elites of the Broken Heaven Alliance and seized more than 200 mineral veins. Chapter 1830. At dawn. To the east of the drifting cloud mountain, the 4 camps of the Tianju God Nation were all lit up. In the 3rd camp, a meeting was being held in a majestic palace. In the vast and majestic meeting hall, there were more than 20 generals in golden armor standing in an orderly manner. The generals waited patiently. Occasionally, there would be people secretly communicating, but they would all lower their voices and keep quiet. In the north of the hall, there was a high platform made of white jade. On the high platform, there was a magnificent throne. On it sat a middle-aged man in a purple robe with white hair and beard. This man was thin and tall. His face was sickly white, but he was exceptionally handsome. Although his hair, beard, and eyebrows were all white, his face did not look old. He was like a handsome man in his 40s. The most obvious feature was the purple mark on his forehead. It was a lifelike small sword, flickering with a faint purple light. Occasionally, there would be flashes of lightning. This man was the commander of the million-strong army, the commander of the Tianju God Nation's immortal guards, and Martial God Tianju's most trusted general, Marshal Saint Yi Lushui. He was leaning on the wide throne with his eyes closed. He did not move at all, nor did he breathe. He was like a stone statue. Suddenly, footsteps came from outside the hall. A black-armored lieutenant rushed into the hall in a hurry. He knelt on the ground and reporting to the Saint Emperor, "There's news from District D." The hall instantly quieted down. Over 20 golden-armored generals turned to look at the commanding officer in unison. Marshal Saint Yi Lushui also slowly opened his eyes. In his deep black eyes, there was a flash of purple lightning. "Speak." He opened his thin lips slightly and uttered a low and cold word. The messenger officer hurriedly reporting to the Holy Emperor, "There are sounds of fighting coming from the 36th district. The Black Spirit Guards have already made their move and exposed their whereabouts. They are fighting with the guards." Yi Lushui nodded slightly and said indifferently, "Leave." The messenger captain bowed respectfully and left the conference hall. The 20 or so golden-armored generals all looked excited and expectant. They were all rubbing their fists and palms together. "That's great. With the efficiency of the Black Spirit Guards, they can kill all the guards within the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Based on my estimations, the battle should have ended by now. All the trash from the Luoshui Divine Nation should have been killed, right? Lord Saint Emperor's plan is truly ingenious, toying with the people of the Luo River Divine Nation in the palm of his hand. The idiots of the Luo River God Nation scattered their forces, wanting to defend more than 30 mining areas at the same time. However, Lord Saint Emperor has sent out over 100 Black Spirit Guards to attack District D. They can take it down in the blink of an eye. The Black Spirit Guards' mission has been completed. Next, it's time for us to take over the mining area. All the benefits have been taken by you guys. Now, it should be my turn, right? Lord Saint Emperor, please send this general to District D to clean up the mess and occupy the mining area." "Lord Saint Emperor, this general is also willing to go." All the generals were discussing among themselves. A few of them volunteered themselves and couldn't wait to occupy the mining area. Yi Liushui's eyes swept across the hall. Wherever he looked, no one dared to look him in the eyes. They all lowered their heads respectfully. In the blink of an eye, all the generals shut their mouths and the hall quieted down. Yi Lushui then said expressionlessly, "We have already crossed the drifting cloud mountain and are 100,000 miles into the Luoshui Divine Nation. The deeper we go into the Sunset Divine Mine and the more mining areas we occupy, the more dangerous our situation will be. At this juncture, we can't let our guard down. We continue to wait for news." His deep and cold voice contained a soul-stirring power. It was as if a mountain was pressing down on them. All the generals lowered their heads and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Yi Lushui closed his eyes again and didn't speak. Time passed silently. Everyone stood in place and waited patiently. After about half an hour, footsteps sounded outside the hall again. It was the same messenger officer. He rushed into the hall like a gust of wind and knelt on the ground with a pale face. He anxiously reported, "Lord Saint Emperor, something bad has happened." All the generals were in an uproar. They were all stunned and confused as they stared at the messenger officer. Yi Lushui also opened his eyes and frowned. He asked in a deep voice, "What's the matter?" The messenger officer said anxiously, "Lord Saint Emperor, the Black Spirit Guards have received news that they were assassinated by a mysterious expert and suffered heavy casualties." What? Yi Liushui's face immediately changed. His eyes were filled with a cold light. The faces of all the generals turned pale with fright, and they began to clamor on the spot. The Black Spirit Guards were attacked by an expert and suffered heavy casualties? There are more than 110 Black Spirit Guards and they are all experts in the tribulation stage. How could they suffer heavy casualties? Didn't the people of the Luoshui Divine Nation scatter their forces to protect the mining areas? How did they know that the Black Spirit Guards were going to attack District D? This is impossible. There must be a problem with the news. No one believed this news and couldn't accept this result. Yi Liushui's face was as cold as ice and his eyes were as sharp as knives. He ordered in a deep voice, "Leave and confirm the news." The messenger officer bowed and was about to leave the hall. At this moment, another black figure rushed into the hall and knelt on the ground in panic. He shouted hoarsely, Lord Saint Emperor. The Black Spirit Guards suffered heavy casualties and only 13 of them managed to escape. This black figure was also a messenger officer. The terrified and panicked voice was like a thunderclap exploding in the main hall, shocking everyone on the spot. All the generals were petrified. They were all dumbfounded and their faces were filled with horror. Even Yi Lushui stood up with a swish sound. His eyes were wide open and his face was dark as he stared at the commanding officer. "You, say it again." The messenger officer who knelt on the ground was sweating profusely under Yi Lushui's invisible pressure. He was terrified. He was almost crawling on the ground. He opened his mouth with great difficulty and said word by word, "The Black Spirit Guards were almost completely annihilated. Only 13 of them managed to escape and they were all seriously injured." When he finished speaking, Yi Lushui slowly closed his eyes and raised his head. His body also trembled slightly. Crack! The purple sword mark on his forehead shot out a bolt of purple lightning and struck the messenger lieutenant, turning him into a pile of black ash on the spot. A violent killing intent that could destroy the world burst out from Yi Lushui's body and rushed into the sky. Everyone in the main hall was so scared that they were trembling, and they all knelt down on the ground. No one dared to make a sound. Even if their clothes were soaked in cold sweat, they didn't dare to wipe it off. After a long time, Yi Lushui suppressed his anger and withdrew his killing intent. He opened his eyes again and looked indifferently to the east. It was as if he had seen the sunset city through the drifting cloud mountain. "Su Changyun, you were forced into a dead end and had no other choice. You ignored the agreement between the two countries and personally killed my Black Spirit Guards." Chapter 1831. Yi Lushui's roar reverberated through the hall, causing everyone's hearts to tremble. Without a doubt, he placed this debt on Holy Emperor Long Luck. In his opinion, only Sage Emperor Changyun could kill over 100 crossing Calamity Realm martial artists in such a short period of time. Others did not know the true identity of the Black Spiritual Guards, but he was well aware of it. They were the elite martial artists of the Broken Sky Alliance. Many of the generals in the hall had the same thoughts as Yi Lushui. Everyone agreed that it was most likely Sage Emperor Changyun who had taken action to destroy the Black Spiritual Guards. Thus, the generals were filled with righteous indignation as they cursed out emotionally. Have the trash of the Luoshui Holy Kingdom finally been forced into a corner? Damn Su Changyun, he actually took action personally. The two countries have long agreed that martial artists above the martial sage realm are not allowed to participate in the war. This has been an unchanging rule for thousands of years. Now, the Luoshui Holy Kingdom has broken the rule. Sage Emperor, our country's army is going to march east and kill them all. We must make them pay with their blood. Su Changyun has taken action personally and killed over 100 Black Spiritual Guards. Although this loss is painful, it has also given us an excellent excuse to go to war. Ha! Su Changyun must have been forced into a corner. Has he become muddle-headed? The generals shouted out emotionally. They only wanted to cross the drifting cloud mountain and rush into the Luoshui Holy Kingdom's territory to start a massacre. Yi Lushui was still calm and would not act rashly. He waved his hand and calmed everyone down. He said in a low voice, "I am only speculating and do not have any conclusive evidence. Pass down the order, let the 13 surviving Black Spiritual Guards come and see me." Another messenger in the hall rushed out of the hall as if he had been pardoned and passed down the order. About half an hour later, he led 13 black-clothed experts in ragged clothes, who were covered in blood, to the conference hall. These black-clothed martial artists were the Black Spiritual Guards, the elite martial artists of the Broken Sky Alliance. They had just escaped from the 36 mines. Some of them were covered in wounds and blood was flowing out. Some of them were missing limbs and looked extremely miserable. Some of them only had half of their bodies left and their life auras were extremely weak. With such miserable injuries, all the generals could guess how intense the battle had been. Yi Lushui looked down at the 13 Black Spirit Guards and asked in a deep voice, "Who killed you? Is it Su Changyun?" The 13 Black Spirit Guards looked at each other. After being stunned for a moment, they reported the situation truthfully. Reporting to Lord Sage Emperor, it shouldn't be Su Changyun. He is a martial saint expert. It is impossible for him to personally take action. At that time, there were 3 people fighting with us. All of them had the strength of the tribulation stage. The leader was a white-robed young man. That white-robed youth uses a mysterious black sword and has mastered an extraordinary sword art. At that time, the mining area was in chaos. The defenders fought with us, but the ones who dealt the most damage were those 3. Hearing this, Yi Lushui frowned. What? Su Changyun didn't make a move? 3 people can kill over 100 black spirit guards? The expressions of the generals changed as well. They were all confused and shocked, unable to believe this fact. Over 100 tribulation stage experts were killed in such a short time. Other than a martial saint, who else can do it? Where did those 3 guys come from? How can they be so powerful? Have their strength reached the half-step to martial sage realm? The white-robed youth uses a mysterious black sword. We must investigate this person and eliminate him as soon as possible. Everyone was discussing and their expressions were filled with anger and worry. The sky was slightly bright. In the Changyun Palace of Sunset City, in the spacious and majestic meeting hall, Sage Emperor Changyun sat at the head of the table. More than 10 generals in armor stood in the middle of the hall. The atmosphere in the hall was very gloomy. Everyone's expressions were grave. Sage Emperor Changyun's face darkened as he said in a low voice, "I have called everyone here early in the morning to announce the latest news. I believe everyone knows that 2 hours ago, a large group of Black Spirit Guards attacked Mine D36. More than 2,000 defenders were defeated on the spot. More than 80% of them were killed or injured. Only 300 people escaped. Now that mine has been lost." Although all the generals knew about this, they did not know the specific situation and the number of casualties. Hearing Sage Emperor Changyun's words, everyone's expressions changed drastically and their hearts sank. More than 10 generals whispered to each other. They were quite agitated and indignant. Despicable Tianju is really vicious to the extreme. It's the damned Black Spirit Guards again. They're simply unscrupulous executioners. In just 3 months, 88 mining areas have been lost. Tianju's people have already invaded our territory. Sage Emperor, are we still going to bide our time? How can we endure such humiliation? Please give the order, Sage Emperor, to send the army to the west and attack Tianju's camp. We must teach Tianju a painful lesson to wash away the humiliation and hatred. The crowd was agitated and the generals were filled with righteous indignation. They all urged Sage Emperor Changyun to give the order to attack. Sage Emperor Changyun's face became colder and colder. He said in a low and dignified voice, "This Sage Emperor understands your feelings. How can we not want to kill our way into Tianju's camp and kill them all? But our country is in a critical situation now. How can we fight with Tianju's god nation head-on? What's more, this is Tianju's scheme. If we take the lead, won't we fall into their trap?" Hearing this, all the generals fell silent. They could only suppress their anger and killing intent. Being suppressed by Tianju's god nation and losing a mine every day, they could only swallow their anger and not fight head-on. This was the most sullen and humiliating thing. But for the overall situation of Luo River God Nation, they could only endure it. Every time they thought of this, all the generals gnashed their teeth in hatred. Right at this moment, a messenger commandant rushed into the main hall like a gust of wind. With a face full of joy, he shouted, "Good news! Good news!" Holy Emperor Changyun and the other generals were all stunned. They all turned to look at the commanding officer. The messenger officer ran to the center of the hall and knelt on one knee. He cupped his hands and reported, "Sage Emperor, good news came from Mine D36. After the defense of the mine was defeated, there was no Tianju's army to occupy it. More than 100 Black Spirit Guards who attacked the mine were killed by a mysterious expert. Only a dozen escaped." The messenger officer's tone was very excited, and his face was also full of excitement. Sage Emperor Changyun and all the generals were stunned on the spot. They all widened their eyes in disbelief. The hall was silent for a few breaths, and then there was an uproar. What? The mine was not lost? More than 100 black spirit guards of Tianju's god nation were killed. Chapter 1832. The originally quiet great meeting hall became a boiling cauldron of voices, bustling with noise. More than a dozen generals were shocked. They exclaimed in disbelief and discussed excitedly. No one could believe that things had taken a turn for the better. A mysterious expert had actually appeared out of nowhere and killed the notorious black-robed expert without leaving a single piece of armor behind. This was great news. Compared to the death of hundreds of black spirit guards, the defeat of the guards in the mining area was nothing. Holy Emperor Chongyun was also excited. After thinking for a while, he murmured, "Where did this mysterious expert come from? How could he be so powerful? To be able to kill hundreds of black spirit guards in such a short time, only a martial sage can create such a miracle. Could it be a strong reinforcement sent by the Divine Master?" Thinking of this, he looked at the messenger and asked in a deep voice, "Do you know the identity of this mysterious expert?" The messenger shook his head and answered honestly, "I don't know. But Commander Li, who was guarding the mining area, has escaped and is waiting outside the conference hall. Summon him." Holy Emperor Chongyun waved his hand. The commanding officer immediately withdrew from the main hall and summoned Commander Li for an audience. After a while, a middle-aged man in black armor limped into the conference hall. He was covered in blood. This man was Commander Li of Mining Area D-36. He was seriously injured. His armor was already in tatters. His body was covered with wounds, revealing his white bones. Even his left arm was missing. It had been cut off by a sharp weapon. Enduring the pain, he walked into the conference hall and reported to Holy Emperor Chongyun, "Holy Emperor, the mining area was attacked by more than 100 black spirit guards. The soldiers suffered heavy casualties." Holy Emperor Chongyun did not want to hear the details. He waved his hand and interrupted Commander Li. He asked in a deep voice, "Let me ask you, who is the mysterious expert that killed so many black spirit guards?" Commander Li frowned and thought for a while. Then he answered honestly, "There were 3 mysterious experts. They seemed to be very young and were only in the crossing Calamity realm. The leader was a young man in a white robe. He used a mysterious black sword. His swordsmanship was superb. No one could stop him." Holy Emperor Chongyun frowned and asked in disbelief, "There were 3 mysterious experts? And they are all in the Tribulation Transcendence realm?" Not only was he in disbelief, but the generals were also in an uproar, extremely shocked. Could it be that it wasn't a martial saint? How can he be a Tribulation Transcending realm expert? Just 3 Tribulation stage powerhouses killed hundreds of black spirit guards? That's ridiculous. The black spirit guards are all Yi Liushui's loyal lackeys. They are all in the Tribulation stage. Could it be that the 3 mysterious experts have all passed the 8th or 9th level heavenly tribulation and possess the strength of a half-step martial sage? The generals discussed animatedly. They were all deeply curious about the identities of the 3 mysterious experts. Holy Emperor Chongyun calmed down. His brows gradually relaxed, and his expression relaxed. "Everyone, it is our fortune that such an unbelievable miracle occurred in the Sunset Divine Mine. The mysterious experts helping us in the dark are not martial saints, but 3 tribulation-passing experts. This is a good thing for us. At least, we didn't violate the agreement between the 2 nations and didn't leave any evidence for the Heaven Extinction Divine Nation to use against us. They won't have an excuse to start a war with us." After that, Holy Emperor Chongyun asked Commander Li to leave the hall to recuperate. He then ordered one of the generals to send a garrison to the 36th mine to clean up the mess. After the meeting was over, he dismissed all the generals and quickly left the great meeting hall. 15 minutes later, the eastern horizon revealed a tinge of orange. The sun was about to rise. Holy Emperor Chongyun was sitting in his study, frowning and deep in thought. At this moment, footsteps came from outside the door. A young man in a golden robe entered the study. The young man was Su Chen. He looked a little tired, and there was a hint of worry between his brows. He stood in front of Holy Emperor Chongyun and bowed. "Father, you summoned me here in such a hurry. What orders do you have?" Holy Emperor Chongyun stopped thinking and asked with a serious expression, "Have you found Ji Tianxing?" Su Chen smiled bitterly and shook his head. He said in a heavy tone, "I led the guards and searched the entire Sunset City. I even searched the surrounding 100,000 miles. He didn't need to say the rest." Holy Emperor Chongyun understood. Su Chen didn't rest for 2 whole days. He had been searching for Ji Tianxing. Holy Emperor Chongyun sighed heavily and said in a low voice, "Since you can't find him in Sunset City, expand the search area and continue to search. You can't rest until you find him. You can't slack off." "Damned bastard brat, I'm already so busy that I'm in a terrible fix, but he actually came to add to the mess at this time. Damn it. If I knew he was so arrogant, I wouldn't have agreed to Granny Long's request. I wouldn't have asked him to help." Su Chen nodded and said in a serious tone, "Father, don't worry. I'll find Ji Tianxing even if I have to exhaust my last bit of strength." After a moment of silence, he asked again, "Father, when I came back, I heard that the Black Spirit Guards attacked the mine last night. What's the situation?" Holy Emperor Chongyun's expression softened when he mentioned this. Mine D36 was attacked by more than 100 Black Spirit Guards. 80% of the guards died. However, 3 mysterious powerhouses secretly killed more than 100 Black Spirit Guards. It's really satisfying and boosted the morale of the entire army. Su Chen's eyes lit up and he asked, "There's such a turn of events? That's great. Father, who are those 3 mysterious powerhouses? Are they reinforcements sent by the Divine Master?" Holy Emperor Chun shook his head and said, "They shouldn't be sent by the Divine Master. After all, I didn't receive any orders from the Divine Kingdom. According to Commander Li, the 3 mysterious powerhouses were very young and only had the strength of a Tribulation Realm cultivator. The leader was a white-robed youth who used a mysterious black sword. His swordsmanship was superb and no one could stop him." Su Chen was startled. He frowned and thought for a moment. Suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind. "Father, I have an unrealistic guess. Ji Tianxing had just left Setting Sun City and disappeared for 2 days, and then this happened. Do you think the mysterious powerhouse who secretly killed the enemy could be Ji Tianxing? He also wore a white robe and was very young. He had the strength of a Tribulation Realm cultivator." Divine Emperor Chongyun revealed an indecipherable smile and shook his head gently. This emperor also thought of this possibility and was just thinking about it. "However, I don't think it's him. After all, he came alone and didn't bring any helpers. There were 3 mysterious powerhouses. Moreover, he only has the strength of a Tribulation Realm cultivator. No matter how monstrous he is, he can't defeat a Tribulation Realm cultivator. He can't even kill a Black Spirit Guard. How could he kill more than 100 people?" Chapter 1833. After over 100 Black Spirit Guards were killed, the Sunset Mine was peaceful for 2 days. Yi Lushui had indeed recruited a large number of elites from the Broken Sky Alliance and called them the Black Spirit Guards. However, there were only over 300 Black Spirit Guards. Over 100 Black Spirit Guards were killed in the battle at Mine 36. Yi Lushui could not bear such a heavy loss and had to put many of his plans on hold. However, after 2 days, Yi Lushui had a new plan. That night, the Black Spirit Guards started to move again. The plan was the same as before. The main theme was to kill and invade. Over 60 Black Spirit Guards would attack Mine B47 together and kill the guards in the mine quickly and use the gold-devouring gourd to plunder a large number of mines. After that, the generals of the Heaven and Divine Nation would lead an army of over 10,000 to occupy the mine. As long as the Luoshui Divine Nation could not take back the mine, Yi Lushui would send a large number of miners and supervisors to mine. In the past 3 months, Yi Lushui used this method to gradually occupy over 80 mines and plunder tens of thousands of mines. Of course, the plan this time was slightly different from before. In order to deal with the 3 mysterious experts that might appear, Yi Lushui equipped the Black Spirit Guards with powerful killing weapons. In the past 2 days, Ji Tianxing did not leave the mine nor did he rest. He brought Ji Bai and Shou He to secretly move around Mine B and secretly set up many formations. Especially the dozen or so mines that were in danger. They were the main targets of the Heaven and Divine Nation and also his main targets of protection. Unfortunately, he did not have enough time to set up a powerful defensive formation, and he could only set up monitoring the situation practical formations under his command. In addition, he also hid in the mines and took the time to study over 100 devouring spirit experts were hiding in the depths of a mining area, waiting of the mound at any time. And the gold it was no exaggeration to say that the dozens of mining areas within a radius of 50,000 miles were all under his control. That the Black Spirit Guards carried. He realized that it was an improved version and was made in batches. Ji Tianxing stayed in mining area devouring Gourd's purpose was more simple, hid in a corner of the mine and became one with the rocks. However, he was meditating with his eyes closed. More powerful. He silently used his Dharmakaya of heaven and earth in just and turned his consciousness into tens of thousands of invisible threads that merged into the heaven and earth for the purpose of under his control. Mineral veins. Tens of thousands of strands of divine consciousness spread out and understood a radius of 1,000 miles. He understood many things in his heart. Within 1,000 in addition miles to setting up the formation of his divine gold-devouring gourd, even if it was deep underground, he could secret chess pieces. A drop of water on the ground or a speck of dust different floating in the air by him. Suddenly, the voice of Ji Bai's divine consciousness rang in his mind. Master, there's a situation in mining area 47. Ji Bai was hiding in a mining area thousands of miles away from him. Using the ancient sect's divine sense technique that he had taught him, he could communicate with his consciousness from thousands of miles away. Ji Tianxing suddenly opened his eyes. A golden light flashed in his palm, and an exquisite pagoda appeared. The palm-sized pagoda released a dazzling white light that enveloped his body. Swoosh! With a flash of white light, he disappeared from where he was. In the next moment, he traveled through thousands of miles of space and appeared in mining area 47. In the past 2 days, he had set up the exquisite illusory formation in dozens of mining areas and connected it to the pagoda. In case of an emergency, he could use the pagoda to teleport to any of the mines. The Linglong Treasure Pagoda was a high-grade tribulation-level magical treasure. It was one of his recent spoils of war. Unfortunately, a certain Black Spirit Guard had this magic treasure but did not know the use of the pagoda. He could only keep it as an antique. Ji Tianxing recognized this magic treasure and found the exquisite illusory formation in his memory. He combined it with the pagoda to perform such a miraculous method. When he appeared in the dimly lit mine, a silent massacre was taking place. Dozens of Black Spirit Guards were hiding underground, quietly using assassination methods to kill the guards in the mine. Ji Tianxing did not hesitate to take out the Burial of Heaven sword and used the Divinity Concealment step to escape underground to start the massacre. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. He didn't use a powerful sword technique to avoid causing the heavens to collapse and the earth to shatter, destroying the entire mine. This Black Spirit Guard in the 7th stage of the Tribulation Realm was the leader of this team. Yi Lushui had high hopes for this person, so he gave him a god-slaying and soul-seizing needle to deal with the mysterious powerhouse. Unfortunately, this person had used the god-slaying and soul-seizing needle, but he was unable to kill Ji Tianxing. He was only slightly injured. After dealing with this Black Spirit Guard, Ji Tianxing quickly rushed to another mine. In a mine thousands of miles away, a dozen Black Spirit Guards were slaughtering the guards of the mine. These Black Spirit Guards were probably in a frenzy, so they no longer kept a low profile. They unleashed all kinds of terrifying spells, massacring the defenders in large numbers, causing the mine to crack and collapse in large areas. Of course, in the process of killing, the Black Spirit Guards did not forget to use the gold-devouring gourd to plunder the mines. After Ji Tianxing arrived, he launched a merciless counterattack. The dozen Black Spirit Guards had a tacit understanding. After discovering him, they stopped chasing the guards and desperately besieged him. The leader was in the 7th stage of the Tribulation Realm and had a god-slaying and soul-seizing needle in his hand. When Ji Tianxing tried his best to resist and deal with the Black Spirit Guards, the leader took the opportunity to release the god-slaying and soul-seizing needle to take his life. Fortunately, Ji Tianxing had the previous experience and was prepared. When the god-slaying and soul-seizing needle appeared, he was ready. He waved the sword of burial of heaven to block it. Boom! With a loud sound, the sword of burial of heaven slashed the god-slaying and soul-seizing needle, and a dazzling white light burst out. The dazzling white light was the light of annihilation that could destroy heaven and earth. It instantly spread out and covered a radius of 200 miles. Within this area, all the rocks, earth, and mines were destroyed by the light of annihilation. When the white light dissipated, this area had become a blank area. Over 1,000 defenders were killed, turned into dust, and disappeared. Among the dozen black spirit guards, 3 were killed on the spot and turned into a pile of black ashes. The rest of the people were seriously injured, and only the leader was lightly injured. Ji Tianxing, on the other hand, was safe and sound. It was just that his divine soul was shaken and he was a little dizzy, but he recovered very quickly. Seeing this, the black spirit guards were shocked and could not believe their eyes. Ji Tianxing was thoroughly enraged. Like a berserk god of death, he held the sword of burial of heaven and began a massacre. How could those heavily injured black spirit guards stop him? In the short span of 100 breaths, more than 10 black spirit guards were killed. The process from his mouth was very thrilling, and it made everyone even more curious about the strong man in the white robe. Thus, Holy Emperor Changyun decided to send reinforcements to strengthen the defense of the mining area. At the same time, he ordered the leaders and generals of the mining area to investigate the identities of the 3 mysterious strong men. Especially the strong man in the white robe, he was an important person to investigate. Of course, after the meeting, he summoned Su Chen to ask about Ji Tianxing. Su Chen still did not rest. He led the guards and searched everywhere for Ji Tianxing. He was dizzy from the search. After a few days of fruitless searching, Su Chen was already mentally and physically exhausted. He was very angry with Ji Tianxing and scolded him behind his back. If not for Ji Tianxing's special identity, he would not care about Ji Tianxing's life or death. A few days later, news about the black spirit guards and the strong man in the white robe spread in the Sunset City. All the generals held the white-robed expert in high esteem. Countless soldiers also respected and worshipped him. Some people called him the white-robed killing god and prayed that he could kill all the black spirit guards and resolve the crisis of the Sunset Mine. Soon, another 3 days passed. After 2 failures, Yi Lushui decided to temporarily stabilize the situation and not expand or invade. He sent out dozens of black spirit guards in teams of 3 to guard the mines that he had already conquered. For now, he did not hope to conquer more mines. He only hoped to defend the mines that he already had. Especially the 20 mines that he had conquered in the past month. The mines that were close to the Luoshui God Kingdom were the most dangerous areas. As long as he could defend these mines and stall for time, the Heaven's End God Kingdom would be able to plunder more ores. However, something happened that made Yi Lushui so angry that he vomited blood. He did not send the black spirit guards to invade the mines, but the white-robed killing god took the initiative to attack. In 3 days, many mines were attacked. Thousands of miners and guards were mercilessly slaughtered by the white-robed killing god. Saint Emperor Changyun and the soldiers would receive the latest news every day. They would receive frequent reports from the front lines. Most of the news was the same. The white-clothed killing god had attacked another mining area and slaughtered all the guards and miners of the Heaven End God Nation. The Heaven End Divine Nation suffered heavy casualties and was forced to abandon the mining area and flee in panic. In just 3 days, the white-clothed Reaper had attacked 5 mining areas and slaughtered more than 50,000 people. Saint Emperor Changyun and the other generals were amazed by the white-clothed killing god's terrifying strength. They did not forget to send out a large number of experts and guards to take back the mining areas. At the same time, Holy Emperor Changyun also passed down orders for the leaders of the various mines to be on standby at any time. Once the white-clothed killing god took action and reclaimed a mining area, the leaders of the mining area would have to quickly provide support and lead the army to enter the mining area. Late night of the fourth day. Within a certain mining area, 100 li underground, a huge black shadow that was hundreds of feet long was silently flying through the pitch-black underground. It was a huge beast that was completely black and covered in scales. It was the Xidigarba divine armor. It was the overlord of the earth, and it hid its aura as it traveled underground. No one below the martial sage realm could detect it, for powerhouses stood quietly on its broad back. The leader was a youth in a white robe, Jitenxing. Standing beside him was a man in golden armor. He was only a meter tall and he carried a dark golden warhammer. This person was the leader of the Earth Spirit tribe, the Golden Mountain King. Behind the two of them stood a young man and a young woman. They were both experts with cold and murderous auras. They were Jibai and Shohei. The Golden Mountain King looked ahead and sent a voice transmission to Jitenxing. "Young master, are we really going to cross the 18 mining areas and attack mining area C?" Jitenxing nodded slightly and said calmly, "There are more than 200 mining areas in the Sunset Holy Mine. According to the different directions, they are divided into 4 areas, namely A, B, C, and D. Mining Area A and B are around Sunset City and are currently safe. They are under the control of the Luoshui Holy Kingdom. Mining Area C is near the Drifting Cloud Mountain and has been occupied by the Heaven Extinction Holy Kingdom. Only Mining Area D is still being fought over. Half of it belongs to the Luoshui Holy Kingdom and the other half is occupied by the Heaven Extinction Holy Kingdom. In the past 3 days, I have conquered 5 mining areas. The people of the Heaven Extinction Holy Kingdom will definitely be restless and hate me to the core." Chapter 1836. In just a quarter of an hour, the Jinshan King and the Xidigarba godly armor had finished casting the spell. A shield of barren earth formed by the power of the earth enveloped the mining area within a radius of 8,000 miles. With this shield of barren earth, no matter what happened in the mining area, it would not be discovered by others. Jitenxing brought Jibai and Shohei, quietly entered the mining area and began the massacre. Swish, swish, swish. Suddenly, more than a dozen giant golden swords appeared in a dimly lit mine and floated in the air. The hundreds of miners and dozens of supervisors who were working in the mine were suddenly awakened and turned their heads to look at the golden swords. At the same time, the giant golden swords, which were more than 10 meters tall, shot out sword lights that filled the sky like a rain of arrows. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, the hundreds of miners and dozens of supervisors were hit by the overwhelming sword lights and burst into blobs of blood. Dull thuds and painful screams mixed together, echoing endlessly in the mine. In a short span of 10 breaths, the dozen or so golden swords shot out tens of thousands of sword lights, killing everyone in the mine. The miners and supervisors did not know who the murderer was until they died. From the beginning to the end, Jitenxing did not show his face. Soon, the giant golden swords dissipated. Jitenxing quietly left and quickly rushed to the next mine. Not long after, he entered another mine and used the same trick again, quickly killing hundreds of people. Next, the same scene played out again and again. Tragic massacres also occurred in the various mines and tunnels one after another. Jitenxing acted alone, while Jibai and Shohei worked together. With their strength, killing the supervisors and guards of the primordial soul realm and the miners of the soul refining realm was as easy as blowing off dust. Only when they encountered the powerhouses of the tribulation realm would they spend more time and effort. However, there were only 2 powerhouses of the tribulation realm in the mining area within a radius of 8,000 miles. Jitenxing alone killed the 2 powerhouses of the tribulation realm in a dozen moves. About 2 hours later, the entire mine quieted down. More than 10,000 miners, 2,000 supervisors and guards, as well as 2 tribulation cultivators, had all been wiped out. Jitenxing left with Jibai and Shohei. The Golden Mountain King and Xidigarba Divine Armor also removed the shield of barren earth. After that, everyone quietly rushed to the next mining area. It was the same method, and the same scene of slaughter was quickly repeated. 1 mine, 2 mines, 3 mines, unknowingly 2 days had passed. In the next 2 days, Ji Tianxing and the others had slaughtered close to 200,000 Heaven's Extinction Divine Nations people. 19 mining areas were lost. All the miners and guards had turned into corpses, and the mine was like a slaughterhouse. After 2 days of continuous fighting, Ji Tianxing and the others had expended a lot of magic power and were mentally exhausted. Thus, everyone quietly left the area and hid to rest. At the same time, the news of the 19 mining areas being lost one after another also reached the camp of the Heaven Absolute Divine Nation. In the meeting hall, there was a heavy and solemn atmosphere. When Yi Lushui heard the news, he was so angry that his eyes turned red. He smashed the beam in the hall with his palm. All the generals were silent. They were so scared that their faces turned pale and their bodies trembled. In the Heaven Absolute Divine Nation, Yi Liushui's reputation was extremely resounding. He was a terrifying martial saint, a butcher and an executioner. He was in charge of the Divine Guard Legion and carried out the will of martial god Tianju. He supervised the entire divine nation and had the power to kill. In the past 1,000 years, there were at least 8 million people who had died directly or indirectly under Yi Liushui's hands. A few days ago, Yi Lushui had gathered all the generals to discuss countermeasures. As a result, everyone unanimously decided to strengthen the defense in the 18 mining areas of D, and a large number of powerhouses and divine guards would be stationed there. Everyone thought that this time, the white-clothed god of death would definitely walk into the trap and die. But it turned out that they were all fooled by the white-clothed god of death. The white-clothed god of death had already seen through their conspiracy and did not attack the 18 mining areas at all. Instead, he went to the C mining area to cause trouble. The death of 200,000 miners and guards was a painful blow to the Heaven Absolute Divine Nation. Who could be responsible for such a heavy loss? Of course, everyone knew why Yi Lushui was so furious. His intelligence and strategy had been ruthlessly trampled on by the white-clothed god of death. This was simply an unbearable insult. For a moment, Yi Lushui almost could not hold back his anger and wanted to find the white-clothed god of death personally. However, for the sake of the overall situation, he suppressed this idea. After all, he was a martial saint powerhouse, the right-hand man of martial god Tianju. Once he personally took action, it would not be able to hide from the Luoshui divine nation. At that time, the situation would be unsalvageable. After a long time, Yi Lushui calmed down and discussed a new strategy with the generals. A day passed quickly. Ji Tianxing, Jin Shan King, and the others rested for a whole day. After recuperating, they set off again and started to act again. This time, Ji Tianxing changed his strategy and had a new plan. He still stayed in the C mining area and attacked a random mining area. Chapter 1837. Half a month passed. The situation between Heaven End God Nation and Luoshui God Nation had also changed. In just a dozen days, more than 60 mining areas occupied by Heaven End God Nation had already been lost. Yi Lushui had spent more than 2 months to occupy these mining areas, but they were all lost in half a month. More than 600,000 of the miners and defenders he brought were also slaughtered. It was no exaggeration to say that the million troops of Heaven End God Nation were already dead in name, and their vitality was greatly damaged. Today, Heaven End God Nation only had more than 200,000 miners and 20 mining areas near Drifting Cloud Mountain. Yi Lushui had already lost. Even if there were still hundreds of thousands of troops stationed in the 4 camps, they couldn't be easily used. The defeat was set, and Yi Lushui was powerless to reverse the situation. And the person who caused all this was not Saint Emperor Changyan, nor was it the million troops of Luoshui God Nation. It was a white-robed youth in the Tribulation realm, the guy who was known as the White-Robed Killing God. In the past 20 days, the white-robed killing god had slaughtered more than 600,000 Heaven End people, and he really deserved the title of Killing God. Now, in the Heaven End camp, the expression of the white-robed killing god really changed. All the soldiers hated him to the bone, but they were also afraid of him like a tiger. Early in the morning, the sky was gloomy and dark, and there was no sunlight at all. Instead, there was a howling wind, as if a storm was about to descend. In the Heaven End camp, in the most sacred and dignified meeting hall, Yi Lushui, who was dressed in a purple robe, sat in the main seat expressionlessly, leaning on the throne and resting with his eyes closed. He supported his forehead with one hand and frowned as he pondered. The aura all over his body was cold and murderous, and his body was motionless. He seemed to have transformed into an abyss of death, brewing terrifying power. In the hall, more than 20 golden-armored generals stood on both sides. Everyone's face was very ugly, and their morale was very low. Their eyes were dim. These generals were all the elites of Heaven End God Nation, and all of them were good at war and rarely lost. In the past, they were all arrogant and ambitious, and didn't put Luoshui God Nation in their eyes at all. When talking about Luoshui God Nation, they always used words like trash and coward. But now, after a long while, a white-haired old general with a higher status stood out and saluted Yi Lushui. Sir Saint Emperor, our army has suffered heavy casualties, and our morale has hit rock bottom. Rumors have spread throughout the army, and it's already difficult to pacify them. The miners were also in a state of panic. Even if they used force to suppress them, it did not work. Every day, there would be people escaping on their own. We can't go on like this. Lord Saint Emperor, please make a decision as soon as possible. This old general had a rather high reputation in the Heaven Absolute Divine Nation. He was once the Grand Marshal of a certain empire and was known as Marshal Pang. Now in this hall, he was the backbone of all the generals. His reputation and status were second only to Yi Lushui. Yi Liushui's thoughts were interrupted and he slowly opened his eyes. He didn't even raise his head to look at Pang Shui. With an expressionless face and an indifferent tone, he said, "When the Eastern expedition began, I've already said it. Our attack on the Sunset Divine Mine this time is to loot a burning house. We are taking the opportunity to plunder the Sunset Divine Kingdom's resources and weaken their national power. Sooner or later, they would have to return the mining area to the Luoshui Divine Nation. Unless the people of the Luoshui Divine Nation are crazy and start a war with us, we would have an excuse to invade the Luoshui Divine Nation and completely occupy the Sunset Divine Mine. What we need to do is to plunder as many resources as possible before returning the mining area." At this point, a cold smile appeared on Yi Liushui's face. He said in a cold tone, "I originally thought that I would be able to occupy their mining area for at least a year. But who would have thought that in just a short 4 months, everything would be over? A mere tribulation realm white-clothed youth ruined my overall plan and slaughtered more than 600,000 people. Even that trash Su Changyun was not worthy of competing with me. How could I be defeated by a white-clothed youth?" When he said the last sentence, Yi Liushui's voice was trembling. A murderous red light appeared in his eyes. He was like an enraged lion. Pang Shui hurriedly cupped his hands and bowed. He comforted, "Lord Saint Emperor, please calm down. That white-clothed killing god is indeed powerful, sinister, and cunning. But after all, he is only at the tribulation realm. How can he be compared with Lord Saint Emperor? It's just that due to the agreement between the two nations, Lord Saint Emperor can't personally take action. That's why the white-clothed killing god is so rampant. Otherwise, once Lord Saint Emperor takes action, even if there are 10 white-clothed killing gods, they will be crushed to death by your finger." All the generals echoed and complimented Yi Lushui. Yi Liushui's anger subsided a lot and his expression eased. He frowned and thought for a moment. He said in a low voice, "Now we only have 20 mining areas left, and they are all near the drifting cloud mountain. All the miners and guards, as well as the Black Spirit Guards and the Immortal Guards, are stationed in these mining areas. The defensive power of these mining areas is unprecedented and all the generals can provide support at any time. No matter how sinister and cunning that white-clothed killing god is, he can't do anything about it." Pang Shui nodded and said in a serious tone, "Lord Saint Emperor is right. Previously, the white-clothed killing god was wandering around and could sneak attack several mining areas every day. But now it's different. In the past 2 days, he has only attacked 2 mining areas. Next, his actions will become more and more difficult. He can forget about taking back another mining area. Yi Lushui nodded slightly and said in a cold voice, "As long as we defend the 20 mining areas, no one can do anything to us. During this period, we must do our best to mine the resources. When the resources in those mining areas have been squeezed dry, I will give the order to retreat and return them to the Luoshui Divine Kingdom. However, we have suffered such heavy losses. If we leave things unsettled like this emperor will not take this lying down. Before we retreat, I must find that white-clothed killing god, cut him into pieces, and burn his bones to ashes." Hearing his words, Pang Shuai and the generals were looking forward to it. They looked at him with burning eyes. "What is Lord Saint Emperor's plan?" Yi Lushui sneered and said in a bitter tone, "We can't find out the identity of the white-clothed killing god, but Su Changyun definitely knows. I will write a letter and send it to Su Changyun, asking him to meet me at the Drifting Cloud Mountain. At that time, I will have a way to make him hand over the white-clothed killing god. I would like to see whether the white-clothed killing god's life is more important, or the 20 mining areas and the lives of 100,000 soldiers are more important." Hearing his words, Pang Shuai and the generals were startled and puzzled. Pang Shuai stroked his white beard and frowned. After thinking for a moment, he suddenly understood something. His expression suddenly changed. He looked at Yi Lushui in disbelief and asked, "Lord Saint Emperor, do you mean use the 20 mining areas as a threat to negotiate with Su Changyun? Force him to hand over the white-clothed killing god?" Yi Lushui glanced at him and sneered, "So what? A single white-robed god of death had ruined my plans and caused me to suffer heavy losses." Chapter 1838. Sunset City was in a state of jubilation. In the past 20 days, news of victory had been sent back to Sunset City every day, spreading throughout the Luoshui God Nation's camp. Every day, a few mines were recovered, and tens of thousands of Tianju's people were slaughtered. The million-strong Luoshui army had long been overjoyed, their morale high to the extreme. The legends of the white-clothed killing god had also spread throughout Sunset City and the army camp, although very few people had seen the white-clothed killing god before. However, everyone worshipped him and described him as wise, powerful, and mysterious to the extreme. Even the scenes of the white-clothed killing god slaughtering Tianju's people and recovering the mines were described vividly by everyone, making people feel as if they were there. In short, the white-clothed killing god had become a great hero in everyone's hearts, a savior. His status and significance even surpassed Holy Emperor Changyun's. Everyone was looking forward to the white-clothed killing god creating more glory, continuing to slaughter Tianju's people and taking back more mines. According to the current situation, all the mines would be recovered within 10 days at most. At that time, Tianju's people could only scram out of the Sunset God Mine and flee back to Tianju God Nation. Early in the morning, the sky was covered with dark clouds. Sunset City's Changyun Palace was as busy as usual, with people moving about. In the main hall, a military meeting was held as usual. Holy Emperor Changyun sat at the head of the table, listening to the generals report the latest battle situation and news. Even Su Chen stood in the main hall, participating in the meeting with the generals. After all, he was one of the generals under Holy Emperor Changyun. He commanded the guards of Sunset City and was responsible for the safety of the entire city. Ji Tianxing had been missing for more than 20 days. Su Chen had searched for 10 days, but he couldn't find Ji Tianxing, so he gave up completely. In his and Holy Emperor Changyun's opinion, Ji Tianxing had most likely escaped from the Sunset God Mine and secretly returned to Luotian Mountain. In this half a month, there were news of victory sent back to Sunset City every day, allowing everyone to see the hope of recovering the God Mine. Holy Emperor Changyun and Su Chen were busy dealing with the divine mines and setting Sun City. They had long forgotten about Ji Tianxing. Of course, the white-clothed killing god's reputation was becoming more and more famous, and he had become a great hero worshipped by the whole nation. Su Chen was also very grateful and worshipped the white-clothed killing god. Even in his dreams, he wanted to see the white-clothed killing god. He wanted to pay his respects and worship him to express his most sincere gratitude. At this moment, a general in black armor reported to Saint Emperor Changyun. Reporting to Saint Emperor, there was no movement near Drifting Cloud Mountain last night. The white-robed killing god didn't attack again. Hearing this news, all the generals were stunned. They whispered to each other with puzzled faces and started discussing secretly. Divine Emperor Changyun frowned. After thinking for a moment, he said, "Everyone knows that in the past 20 days, the white-clothed killing god has been attacking the various mining areas. He has already killed more than 600,000 Tianju realm cultivators and helped us reclaim more than 60 mining areas. This was already a huge contribution, and also an inconceivable miracle. For this person to be able to do so much, he is already a great hero who saved the Sunset Divine Mine. Even if this emperor sees him, I will have to pay my respects and thank him. In fact, I will even report this matter to the Divine Master and ask him to reward him heavily. Even if the white-clothed killing god doesn't act anymore, we can't criticize him or ask for anything." Su Chen immediately stood up and said with a solemn expression, "That's right. I agree with Lord Saint Emperor's words. When the Sunset Divine Mine was invaded and we were at our wits' end, the white-clothed killing god appeared out of nowhere and helped us reclaim more than 60 mining areas. We, the people of Luo Shui, should be grateful and respectful. We can't forget his kindness. The white-clothed killing god fought alone. No matter how strong he would still be injured and exhausted. So, don't feel disappointed or regretful. The rest of the matter should be settled by us." The generals all chimed in, supporting Su Chen's words. "That's right. We, the people of Luo Shui, are not ungrateful people. The white-clothed killing god has accomplished such a feat and miracle. It's enough for us to remember it for the rest of our lives and be grateful to him. No matter what, I hope the white-clothed killing god will be safe and sound." Seeing that everyone had such thoughts, Saint Emperor Changyun's expression eased and he continued, "I believe everyone knows that the Heaven and Divine Nation only has 20 mining areas left. They have stationed all their forces in those mining areas. According to the investigation of the spies and scouts, there are 200,000 miners, 80,000 guards, more than 2,000 supervisors, and more than 200 divine guards and black spirit guards stationed there. With such a tight defense, the white-clothed killing god will definitely find it difficult to invade. He can't act rashly, or else it will be dangerous. What we need to do now is to put as much pressure on the Heaven and Divine Nation as possible and restrain their forces to create an opportunity for the white-clothed killing god." Su Chen and the generals nodded in agreement, but they all frowned and felt that it was very troublesome. "Lord Saint Emperor, your idea is very good, but how should we act? We can't use the army on the surface and can only compete in the dark. This is difficult. Everyone, think of a way and pool your ideas." Just as everyone was discussing countermeasures, a messenger commandant rushed into the main hall as fast as the wind. "Report. Lord Saint Emperor, the Heaven End Camp has sent an envoy to deliver a letter written by the Marshal Saint Yi Lushui." The messenger officer knelt in the hall and held a sandalwood box with both hands. Everyone immediately quieted down. Su Chen hurriedly took the sandalwood box and respectfully handed it to Saint Emperor Changyun. Saint Emperor Changyun opened the sandalwood box and saw a jade slip in it. He picked up the jade slip and inserted his divine sense into it to check the contents of the jade slip. A scene immediately appeared in his mind. Yi Lushui, who was wearing a purple robe, was leaning on a wide throne. He stroked his snow-white hair and said in a cold tone, "Su Cheng, tonight at midnight, this emperor will wait for you at the peak of Drifting Cloud Mountain. You must be very anxious and want to recover the mining areas as soon as possible and end this secret war. If so, then you can't miss tonight's negotiation. As long as you are smart enough, this emperor will return those 20 mining areas with both hands. If you don't come, then take care of yourself." At the end, Yi Lushui sneered with an evil expression. His posture was very confident and arrogant. Saint Emperor Chongyun withdrew his divine sense and crushed the jade slip. His face immediately became gloomy. He frowned fiercely and pondered with a dignified expression. Seeing his reaction, Su Chen and the generals were immediately filled with worry and doubt and asked one after another, "Lord Saint Emperor, what happened? Yi Lushui, that old bastard, what trick is he playing now? Lord Saint Emperor, is it related to the white-clothed killing god? Did Yi Lushui capture the white-clothed killing god himself?" Chapter 1839. Su Chen and the other generals immediately revealed doubtful expressions and discussed animatedly. "Lord Divine Emperor, Yi Lushui wants to negotiate with you at Drifting Cloud Mountain? There must be something going on. Yi Lushui must be up to something. Lord Divine Emperor, please reconsider. Lord Divine Emperor, does this have anything to do with the white-robed killing god? Why does Yi Lushui want to negotiate?" Everyone stared at Divine Emperor Chongyun, eager to know the answer. Divine Emperor Chongyun said expressionlessly, "Yi Lushui is arrogant and proud. If he wasn't forced into a corner, he wouldn't negotiate with me. Therefore, this must be related to the white-robed killing god. However, I have to go personally to find out what Yi Lushui is up to. Everyone, please don't try to persuade me. I have my own plans." With that, he called out the names of Su Chen and a few other generals to follow him to Drifting Cloud Mountain for negotiations. The remaining generals had to stay in Sunset City and the mining area. After the meeting, Divine Emperor Chongyun left the hall first. Su Chen and the other generals also left to prepare for tonight's negotiation. Not long after, everyone was ready. They left Sunset City with Holy Emperor Chongyun and rushed to Drifting Cloud Mountain. 16 hours passed quickly. It was now midnight. There were only 2 more hours to midnight. There was an area of 10 miles at the peak of Drifting Cloud Mountain. The terrain was quite flat. The Drifting Cloud Mountain was silent at night. However, there were 10 strong cultivators gathered at the peak. The leader was a handsome man in a purple robe with white hair and a white beard. He was Marshal Saint Yi Lushui. He was leaning on a golden throne inlaid with jade. He supported his chin with one hand and closed his eyes to rest. There was a layer of invisible aura around his body, protecting him like a shield. Even if the night wind blew, it couldn't blow up his clothes and white hair. In the empty space behind him, 9 generals in golden armor stood in a row, quietly and respectfully waiting on him. In addition, there were more than 50 majestic divine guards in silver armor at the edge of the field. These divine guards were spread out and formed a semicircle with the flag of the heaven and divine nation beside them. Even though the night sky was as dark as ink and the wind was cold, no one moved. They waited quietly. A heavy and austere aura quietly enveloped the entire mountain peak. At the same time, 50 kilometers away from Drifting Cloud Mountain, in the depths of the dark underground, there was a naturally formed cave. Ji Tianxing, dressed in a white robe, was sitting cross-legged in the cave, silently meditating. Other than him, there was no one else in the cave. Both Ji Bai and Shohei had suffered heavy injuries. The previous 20 days of fighting had also exhausted their mana and exhausted their strength. At this moment, the 2 of them were recuperating in the sword world. About half an hour later, a 30-feet-long shadow suddenly emerged from the dark brown rock layer. Shua! The black figure quietly came to Ji Tianxing's side and stopped. Its appearance was like a pangolin. Its entire body was as black as ink and covered in scales. It was the Xitigarbha divine armor that had shrunk countless times. Reporting to Master, this subordinate discovered something at the peak of Drifting Cloud Mountain. The Xitigarbha divine armor looked at Ji Tianxing and reported the news to him using divine sense. Ji Tianxing slowly opened his eyes and asked through voice transmission, "What did you discover?" The Xitigarbha divine armor replied in a low voice, "The situation is just as Master expected. The people of heaven and divine nation can't hold it in any longer." This subordinate discovered that a large number of experts have arrived at the peak of Drifting Cloud Mountain. Among them, there are more than 60 tribulation stage experts and a white-haired martial saint. Ji Tianxing immediately frowned and said in a low voice, "White-haired martial saint? That must be Yi Lu Shui. Strange, he should be in a terrible state right now. Why would he bring a large number of experts to the peak of Drifting Cloud Mountain?" Thinking of this, he keenly sensed that the situation was not good. He stepped on the back of the Xitigarbha divine armor and ordered, "Take me to see the situation. What the hell is Yi Lu Shui doing?" The Xitigarbha divine armor did not say anything else. Its entire body emitted a mysterious black light that wrapped around him. In the blink of an eye, it carried Ji Tianxing and drilled into the rock stratum, quietly moving upwards. It was the overlord of the earth and could manipulate the power of the earth, rocks and mineral veins. As long as it carefully hid its aura, almost no one could find its trace. After a short 100 breaths, the Xitigarbha divine armor followed the belly of the mountain and arrived at the peak of Drifting Cloud Mountain. When it was 5 miles away from the peak of the mountain, it stopped and quietly hid in the rock layer inside the mountain. Ji Tianxing sat quietly on its back and used its power to cast a secret method to quietly observe the situation at the peak of the mountain. He soon saw that in the open space with a radius of 10 miles on the peak of the mountain, there were indeed more than 60 tribulation stage experts gathered. The most conspicuous one was the white-haired man in front of the crowd. He sat on the throne with a golden saber, exuding an extremely dangerous aura. That purple-robed white-haired guy should be Yi Lu Shui. Looking at the posture of him and the generals, it seems that he is waiting for someone to come and meet him. With such a big lineup on the peak of Drifting Cloud Mountain, is the person Yi Lu Shui is waiting for Su Changyun? Ji Tianxing frowned and thought for a moment. He vaguely guessed Yi Lu Shui's intention. He decided to lurk in the mountain and secretly monitor Yi Lu Shui. On the peak of the mountain, Yi Lu Shui had been leaning on the throne and quietly resting with his eyes closed. Suddenly he felt something. He vaguely perceived that a wisp of divine thought was sweeping around. He immediately frowned and opened his eyes to look at the ground under his feet. But at this moment, in the night sky not far away, a bright 5-colored brilliance lit up. A 5-colored auspicious cloud cut through the night sky and was moving as fast as lightning. Swoosh! In just a few breaths, the 5-colored auspicious cloud arrived at the peak of Drifting Cloud Mountain and slowly descended. Yi Lu Shui, the 9 generals and more than 50 immortal guards all looked at the 5-colored auspicious cloud with cold and hostile eyes. After the 5-colored auspicious cloud dissipated, the figures of 10 experts appeared. The leader was a white-haired man in a golden robe and a purple cloak. This man was tall and burly and had a majestic appearance. He exuded the noble and powerful aura of a martial sage. He was Holy Emperor Changyun. Behind him was a young man in a golden robe. It was Su Chen. In addition to the father and son, there were 8 other generals in armor. They all carried swords and walked over with majestic expressions. In the blink of an eye, Holy Emperor Changyun brought Su Chen and the others to the scene and stood still. He looked coldly at Yi Lu Shui, who was 1,000 feet away, and asked in an indifferent tone, "Yi Lu Shui, you sent someone to send me a letter and asked me to meet here. What do you want?" Su Chen and the 8 generals of the Luo Shui Divine Kingdom all stared at Yi Lu Shui with vigilance. Yi Lu Shui saw that everyone was as if they were facing a great enemy. He could not help but curl his lips and reveal a playful sneer. Chapter 1840. Hearing Yi Lu Shui's words, the 9 generals behind him all sneered contemptuously. "TSK? Luo Shui Divine Kingdom's people are trash. They're scared to this extent. In the past 3 months, we've been invincible. We've conquered more than 80 mines. They're already scared out of their wits. Lord Divine Emperor's might is unparalleled. Just one look from him is enough to scare the Luoshui Divine Kingdom's people to this extent. The 9 generals whispered to each other, openly mocking Su Chen and the others. When Su Chen and the other generals heard this, they were instantly enraged. They glared at the 9 heaven-end grade generals with murderous intent. Both sides were seething with anger, and were about to start cursing at each other. Divine Emperor Changyun waved his hand, indicating for Su Chen and the others to calm down. Then, he stared coldly at Yi Lushui and asked in a deep voice, "Yi Lushui, did you ask this emperor to meet here just to have a war of words? If so, this emperor wouldn't have bothered to meet you." Yi Lushui gradually put away his sneer and said expressionlessly, "Since you're so anxious, this emperor will get straight to the point and talk business. You should understand the current situation even if this emperor doesn't say it. This emperor has already shrunk the defense with all his might, fortifying the 20 mining areas and making them impregnable. Even if you want to reclaim those mines, it'll take at least 3 to 5 years. Moreover, in the process of reclaiming those mines, you'll have to sacrifice at least 100,000 soldiers. In 3 to 5 years, the mines will have been drained dry by this emperor's people. Even if I return them to you, they'll only be empty shells." As Yi Liushui's voice sounded, the entire mountain fell silent. Everyone stared at him. Divine Emperor Changyun, Su Chen, and the others' faces were a bit gloomy, but they didn't refute. After all, this was something that everyone was well aware of. Divine Emperor Changyun frowned and asked indifferently, "Then you mean?" Yi Lushui stroked his white hair and looked askance at Divine Emperor Changyun. He said slowly, "It's very simple. Let's make a deal. You really want to reclaim those 20 mines and resolve the crisis of the Sunset Divine Mine as soon as possible. Only then can you report to Luoshui Martial God and prove that you're not trash. This emperor can fulfill your wish and return those 20 mines to you. Furthermore, I will bring all the soldiers and miners away from this place as quickly as possible." Hearing him say this, Su Chen and the generals were a little moved, but their eyes were even more alert. Everyone knew that Yi Lushui would never do this for no reason. He must be up to something. Divine Emperor Changyun looked at him expressionlessly and asked, "What are your conditions?" I watched Su Changyun grow up. That kid was a loyal person back then. He shouldn't repay kindness with enmity. Moreover, he doesn't even know who the white-clothed killing god is. Even if he wants to make a deal with Yi Lushui, he can't do it. The Xidigarba armor became more obedient and stopped talking. At the same time, Holy Emperor Changyun on the mountain peak also spoke. He looked at Yi Lushui expressionlessly and said in a deep voice, "Yi Lushui, as the governor guarding the mines, I will not act on impulse. I will put the interests of the Luoshui Divine Kingdom first. However, we, the people of the Luoshui Divine Kingdom, will never be vile people who repay kindness with enmity. The white-clothed killing god is a genius. He is willing to risk his life to resolve the crisis for us. He is a true hero. If I hand him over, won't I be cursed for eternity and go down in infamy for thousands of years?" Holy Emperor Changyun's words touched the hearts of Su Chen and the other generals. Everyone straightened their backs and revealed a proud expression. Their expressions were full of approval and support. Holy Emperor Changyun paused for a moment and continued, "In addition, the white-clothed killing god is mysterious. Even I don't know his true identity. Yi Lushui, don't waste your time. It's all in vain." After that, Holy Emperor Changyun waved his wide sleeves and turned to leave. Yi Lushui frowned fiercely and shouted with a gloomy face, "Su Changyun, are you really going to give up such a good opportunity? You will regret it." How was this possible? How could it be you? Even though he was a martial sacred realm expert with a heart as calm as still water and a will as firm as steel, he still lost his composure due to the great impact. Su Chen was even more dumbfounded. He had suffered the greatest impact. It took him quite a while to regain his senses. He pointed at the white-robed youth and said with a flushed face, "You, Ji Tianxing, do you know that I've been looking for you for half a month? We are here to negotiate and discuss important military matters. How dare you barge in? Hurry up and leave. You actually pretended to be the white-robed killing god. Do you want to die? In Su Chen's heart, Ji Tianxing was an arrogant person who didn't have much ability. After not seeing him for more than 20 days, he thought that Ji Tianxing had already left Sunset City and gone back to Luotian Mountain. And now, Ji Tianxing had appeared in front of everyone in the form of a white-clothed killing god. This shocking scene caused Su Chen to suffer a huge impact. His mind was in a mess. No matter what, he couldn't connect Ji Tianxing with the white-robed killing god. One was a loathsome and despicable flower in a greenhouse, while the other was a great hero revered by all. The atmosphere on the mountain peak became very complicated and subtle. Ji Tianxing ignored Su Chen and looked calmly at Sacred Emperor Cheng. Sacred Emperor Cheng, Yi Lushui is so sincere to negotiate with you. How can you just leave like that? I think his conditions are good. We can sit down and discuss slowly. Ji Tianxing's tone was light and indifferent. It was as if they weren't discussing life and death, but the price of an elixir. Divine Emperor Chang'an immediately frowned and asked in a deep voice, Ji Tianxing, what are you doing? Where have you been for the past 20 days? Ji Tianxing revealed a trace of a smile and said in a playful tone, where else can I go? Of course, I went to the mining area to kill evil. Sacred Emperor Chang'an raised his eyebrows and asked in shock, you are really the white-robed killing god? It's the real deal. Ji Tianxing smiled as usual. Sacred Emperor Chang'an couldn't believe it. He frowned and looked at Su Chen silently. Su Chen and the 8 generals were also suspicious. They looked at Ji Tianxing carefully. Everyone thought that the white-robed killing god must be a half-step to martial sage. How could he only be a rank 1 cross-calamity stage martial artist? On the other side, the generals of Heaven's and Holy Nation were whispering to each other. Yi Lushui stared coldly at Ji Tianxing and shouted, brat! You should know the consequences of pretending to be the white-robed killing god in front of me. Ji Tianxing didn't want to waste his breath. Light flashed in his right palm and a ball of golden light appeared. The golden light floated in front of him and it contained hundreds of golden sword tokens. He looked at Yi Lushui with a smile and said slowly, Martial Sage Yi Lushui, I heard that you have a group of lackeys who call themselves the Black Spirit Guards. I originally thought that those Black Spirit Guards were your immortal guards in disguise. However, in the past 20 days, I have killed more than 260 Black Spirit Guards. I found more than 200 golden sword tokens on their bodies. I have seen these tokens before. Only the elites of the Broken Sky Alliance are qualified to have these tokens. Martial Seiji, you have hidden your strength well. The Broken Sky Alliance, which claims to be free and unrestricted by the Holy Nations, actually sent a large group of elites to work for you. You have really put in a lot of effort. Although they are dead, their tokens are with me. Do you want me to return them to you? As he spoke, Ji Tianxing picked up the golden ball of light and tossed it in his palm a few times. Yi Lushui and the generals' faces changed drastically. Everyone's eyes turned red and they were dyed with a thick layer of blood. Scarlet flames of killing intent burst out from their bodies. Sage Emperor Chang'an, Su Chen and the others, who were still hesitating a moment ago, also changed their faces and revealed a look of joy. At that moment, they no longer had a trace of doubt. The facts had proven that Ji Tianxing was the legendary white-robed killing god. At that moment, the generals were excited and their spirits were lifted. Chapter 1842. The identity of the white-clothed killing god was finally confirmed. Yi Lushui could no longer sit still. He slowly stood up, and an invisible aura burst out from his body, shattering the golden jade throne. His eyes and face were extremely gloomy, like a glacier. You are indeed the white-clothed killing god. Very good. You have delivered yourself to me, very wise. Yi Lushui murmured in a low voice. His tone was filled with a cold aura of death. As he spoke, he slowly walked towards Ji Tianxing. With every step he took, the murderous aura around his body became stronger. An incomparably heavy pressure quickly condensed into an aura, suppressing towards Ji Tianxing. He could no longer suppress the killing intent in his heart, and he immediately wanted to crush Ji Tianxing into pieces and kill him completely. But at this moment, Holy Emperor Chang'an stepped out, and a violent power burst out from his body, fiercely blasting towards Yi Lushui. Yi Lushui, do you think I don't exist? Boom. The two auras collided fiercely, and a violent blast exploded in the night sky. Ji Tianxing was in the center of the storm, but he was safe and sound. The violent blast spread out, causing more than a dozen generals and many divine guards to stagger, their faces pale. This was just the collision of the auras of two martial sages, and it had such a terrifying power. If two martial sages fought, it would really destroy the heavens and earth, and the sun and moon would lose their light. The collision of the two's auras could be considered evenly matched, and no one could gain the upper hand. Holy Emperor Chang'an stared coldly at Yi Lushui and shouted in a deep voice, "Yi Lushui, don't forget the agreement between the two countries. Do you want to start a war with the Luoshui divine nation? If you dare to touch a hair on Ji Tianxing's head, I will lead 1,000,000 troops and flatten the heaven extinction camp." Yi Lushui naturally would not break the rules, and it was even more impossible for him to start a war with the Luoshui divine nation. But his mouth was unforgiving, and he sneered contemptuously, "We haven't fought for 100 years, and you are still so useless, you haven't improved at all." Holy Emperor Chang'an also sneered, and his face was full of disdain. "Humph! I don't want to argue with you. If you are really so confident, let's exchange a few moves on the Qingming platform some other day." Yi Lushui naturally would not retreat, and he sneered confidently, "That's good, I have long wanted to teach you a lesson." Seeing that the two martial sages were about to continue arguing, Ji Tianxing waved his hand and said to Yi Lushui, don't forget why you're here tonight. Let's get down to business." As expected, Yi Lushui stopped talking nonsense. He stared at him with sharp eyes and asked, "How do you want to talk?" Ji Tianxing revealed a smile and said meaningfully, "You want my life." Saint Emperor Chang'an wanted to reclaim 20 mining areas. "We can compromise and settle this matter with an open and above-board bet." "Interesting." Yi Lushui sneered and asked, "How do you want to bet?" Ji Tianxing pointed at the generals behind him and said calmly, "You can choose 6 elite experts to fight with me in the arena, and you will be responsible for your own life and death. If I win, you will return the 20 mining areas and lead the army to leave this place." Yi Lushui frowned and asked, "Then what if you lose?" Ji Tianxing sneered and said, "Since it's a battle of life and death in the arena, then I'll naturally die if I lose. Your wish will be fulfilled." Hearing this, Yi Lushui's eyes flashed with a bright light, and he was quite tempted. He had already agreed to this battle, and he was even a little impatient. But he had always been cunning, so how could he agree so easily? You are confident, but how can I agree to it? Those 200+ Black Spirit Guards have all died under your sword. Do you think this emperor doesn't know your true strength? A playful smile appeared on Ji Tianxing's face as he proudly said, "Before you make your decision, I need to introduce myself. My surname is Tianxing. I am the white killing god that you hate the most, the #1 genius of the continent, and the #1 god's disciple of the Luoshui divine kingdom. With my identity, you will never dare to kill me, unless you want to bear the wrath of the Luoshui martial god. However, I will bet with you in public, and you will be responsible for your own life and death. You can kill me, and you will not have to bear the revenge of the Luoshui martial god and the Luoshan mountain. What do you think? Think about it." Yi Lushui's expression changed drastically, and his eyes widened as he stared at Ji Tianxing. After a moment, he came back to his senses and said, "So it is you. You are the Ji Tianxing who was favored by the old man of the divine ruins at the Three Kingdoms exchange." After knowing Ji Tianxing's identity, he was even more determined to kill him. If he could get rid of the #1 god's disciple of the Luoshui divine kingdom openly, he would be able to kill a huge threat, and it would be a great blow to the Luoshui divine kingdom. Yi Lushui was very tempted and wanted to agree immediately. However, he pretended to be reluctant and said in a low voice, "6 is not enough. You are the infamous white killing god and the #1 genius of the continent. How can ordinary people compare to you? I want to pick 10 elite experts to bet with you. Do you dare to accept? Ji Tianxing had expected him to say this, and he said without hesitation, at most 8. Otherwise, there is no need to talk. Deal. Yi Lushui nodded and agreed without hesitation, and he sneered. Divine Emperor Chang'an immediately frowned when he saw this, and he hurriedly spoke to stop them. Ji Tianxing, you can't do this. You can't agree to it. Ji Tianxing turned to look at him and asked with a frown, I will bet my life with Yi Lushui. Why can't I? Holy Emperor Chang'an quickly waved his hand and explained, that's not what I meant. Ji Tianxing, I have neglected you before. Please don't take it to heart. However, you shouldn't be so reckless. You should know that in my heart, you are more important than the 20 mines. Before you came, Granny Long had repeatedly warned me not to let anything happen to you no matter what. If anything happens to you, how am I going to explain it to Granny Long? How am I going to explain it to the Divine Master? You can't bet with Yi Lushui. I will think of a way to take back those mines. I won't allow you to bet with your life. Ji Tianxing saw his sincerity, so he explained, Holy Emperor Chang-yun, please trust me this once. This is the fastest way to solve this problem. Yi Lushui will definitely defend the 20 mines. You will have to spend at least a year to take them back. In the process, at least hundreds of thousands of soldiers will die in battle, and we will lose even more resources. I am the White Killing God, and I am invincible below the martial sage realm. If I don't have full confidence, why would I bet with my life? Holy Emperor Changyun hesitated when he heard Yi Liushui's confident tone. Ji Tianxing, don't be anxious. I will send a message to Granny Long and the Divine Master and ask them to make a decision. Ji Tianxing waved his hand and said decisively, no need. There is not enough time. Chapter 1843. Ji Tianxing's persistence and stubbornness made Holy Emperor Changyun helpless. Just as he said, he was willing to bet his life for the 20 mines. Why not? Moreover, he had full confidence and certainty. Holy Emperor Changyun was silent for a moment and could only nod. However, he stared at Ji Tianxing with a solemn expression and said in a serious tone, Ji Tianxing, I agree to your request and allow you to bet with Yi Lushui. However, no matter what, you have to remember to put your own safety first. Your life is more important than the 20 mines and 100,000 soldiers. The Luoshui divine nation has billions of people and tens of millions of brave soldiers, but only you. If something really happens to you, I won't be able to absolve myself from the blame. I will definitely report everything to the Divine Master and willingly accept my punishment. Ji Tianxing looked at him deeply and smiled. He nodded and said, Don't worry, nothing will happen. Holy Emperor Changyun did not say anything else and looked at Ji Tianxing solemnly. He said loudly, Yi Lushui, Ji Tianxing is ready. You can choose your elites. You can choose any 8 of the generals and soldiers behind you. Tonight, we will settle our grudges on the peak of Drifting Cloud Mountain. Don't even think of playing any tricks. Yi Lushui stroked the white hair on his temples and sneered contemptuously, "Ha! The 8 elites under my command are enough to kill him. What tricks do I need?" The white god of slaughter, the #1 disciple of the Luoshui divine nation, the #1 genius of the continent. What a dazzling title, what a glorious battle record. It's a pity that he will be buried here tonight. Su Changyan, you should inform the setting sun city to prepare for his funeral. Holy Emperor Chongyun did not want to argue with him. He took out a disc array from his interspatial ring and placed it on the ground. Then, he waved his hand and cast a spell to set up a defensive array on the peak of the mountain. He wanted to build a temporary arena. Yi Lushui did not waste any more time. He turned to look at the 9 generals behind him and frowned. These 9 people were all elite generals of the Heaven and Divine Nation. Each of them was a veteran general who had won hundreds of battles, and all of them had strength above the 5th level of the Tribulation Transcendence realm. Among them, the weakest was in the 5th stage of the Crossing Tribulation realm, while the strongest was in the 8th stage of the Crossing Tribulation realm. It was the white-haired Pang Shui. In terms of overall strength, these generals were much stronger than the Black Spirit Guards. Because of this, Yi Lushui was so sure that Ji Tianxing was dead for sure. After a moment of consideration, he pointed at the weakest middle-aged general and said, "You stay. The other 8 generals will join the battle." The general whose name was called immediately revealed an expression of relief as he heaved a huge sigh of relief. Although he was loyal to the Heaven Extinction God Nation, he hoped to win this bet and kill Ji Tianxing for revenge. However, he was afraid of the fierce reputation of the white-robed killing god, so he did not dare to fight with Ji Tianxing. Otherwise, he would lose his life. "Yes, Lord Saint Emperor." The man bowed respectfully and quickly took 2 steps back. The faces of the other 8 generals were a little solemn, and there was a hint of worry in their eyes. Yi Lushui looked at the 8 generals and instructed them with his divine sense. "When the life-and-death battle begins, you will challenge Ji Tianxing one by one. You must do your best and use all your means. The first 5 people to challenge Ji Tianxing, even if they can't kill him, they must persist until the end and try their best to consume his spiritual power. The last 3 people to challenge him, even if you have to sacrifice your lives and perish together with him, you must complete the task. You can only win this battle, you can't lose. If the 8 generals can't kill Ji Tianxing, then you must commit suicide to atone for your sins." The bodies of the 8 generals stiffened. After a moment of stupefaction, their eyes gradually became fiery and determined. Waves of firm and scorching killing intent burst out from their bodies and gradually condensed into dark red flames in the night sky. That was the flame of killing intent, condensed by the thought of death. Yi Lushui did not say anything more. He turned around and began to cast spells, setting up a defensive array with Saint Emperor Changyan. Soon, half an hour had passed. A saint-level array with a radius of 10 miles was set up by Yi Lushui and Saint Emperor Changyan. The colorful semicircular light shield was like a huge canopy in the sky, but also like a huge bowl that was placed upside down on the flat ground of the mountain peak. The temporary arena was completed. No matter how Ji Tianxing and the 8 generals fought in the array, the shockwaves from the battle would not be able to destroy the saint-level array and would not spread out. Under Saint Emperor Changyan's request, Yi Lushui bowed to heaven and earth with him and swore an oath. After the oath was made, heaven and earth would be the witness. Whoever violated it would be punished by the heavens and spurned by the world. After the ceremony, Ji Tianxing was the first to step into the formation. His left hand was behind his back, and his right hand held the sword of burial of heaven, pointing diagonally to the ground. He stood in the middle of the arena elegantly. "Who wants to die first?" A confident and majestic roar sounded, spreading across the entire mountain peak and reverberating in the night sky. Outside the array, Saint Emperor Chongyun, Su Chen, and the 8 Luo Shui generals all looked at him with burning eyes, their blood surging. On the other side, Yi Lushui, the 9 heaven and realm generals, and more than 50 divine guards were also filled with righteous indignation, staring at Ji Tianxing with murderous intent. "Let me have a go at you." A burly man with a full beard jumped out first. Although he was 10 feet tall and as strong as a black bear, he looked a little clumsy. But in fact, he had the strength of a 6th-level Tribulation Transcendence Realm cultivator, and his movements were very fast. Swoosh! With a flash of golden light, he crossed 1,000 feet, entered the defensive array, and landed on the arena. His figure only paused for a moment, and then he rushed toward Ji Tianxing without hesitation. A 5-foot-long saber appeared in his palm, and the saber light filled the sky. Kid, you're eager to die. I'll fulfill your wish now. Azure Dragon strikes water. 18 dazzling gray saber lights, like 18,000 feet long azure dragons, fell from the sky in a violent and shocking manner toward Ji Tianxing. This person followed Yi Liushui's instructions and did not hold back at all. He used all his strength and used a secret technique. When the 18 azure dragon saber lights slashed down, even a 10,000-foot mountain would be smashed into pieces. However, Ji Tianxing stood proudly in the arena, as majestic as a mountain, and his expression did not change at all. He ignored the 18 azure dragon saber lights and stared at the burly man. He suddenly raised his right hand and stabbed out with his sword as fast as a stream of light. Piercing sword. A dot of cold light suddenly appeared, flashing in the night sky. The next moment, the cold light passed through the many azure dragon saber lights, broke through the burly man's defense, and bloomed on his chest. Boom! A dazzling cold light, like a mushroom cloud, suddenly appeared in the night sky. A deafening sound immediately exploded on the mountain peak and spread for hundreds of miles. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.